This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate third and final part of What If Naruto was saved by Obito and joined Akatsuki. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And for more exclusive and spicy content, follow me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Sasuke caught the brunette's attention by saying, "Tenten, listen to her." Tenten still worried about her teammates, but she trusts Sasuke. She didn't trust him at the time, but after learning that he was helping Hinata with her training and treating her with more kindness and respect than even Neji and her sister Hanabi, she came to fully trust the Uchiha. "I sense no lie in her, and Hashi isn't one to kill innocents. I sense that in him." Tenten said, "Okay, fine." Tenten questioned, "But then what do we do then?" "Here's the game plan. If you guys are willing to listen, that is." Karen replied. Sakura remarked, "Well, we're pretty much on the same side here." "Okay. Our concern right now is the civilians. We have to gather them and get them out of the village. That's your job." Karen replied. Tenten said, "Then what will you guys do?" Karen responded, "We're going to deal with the Auto.nin." Sakura questioned, "Are you sure you don't need any help?" Tetsuo Zabuza said, "We'll be fine, kid, trust me." Kaya Hiku said, "Just make sure Akiko is safe and away from Otto's grasp." The Konoha.nin gave a sympathetic nod. Sakura said, "You better get on my back, Akiko." Sakura helped her onto her back, and Akiko nodded. Sakura said, "We'll meet you guys later." Tenten and Sasuke drove off to locate and collect the civilians while Sakura carried Akiko on her back. Fu questioned, "Are we really going to do this?" Zabuza grinned beneath his bandages and asked, "Why? Don't you trust your boyfriend?" Fu exclaimed, flushed, "He's not my boyfriend." Hiku also took offense at the remark. "It just seems." Naruto was right. "Akatsuki can't be known to anyone yet, especially our enemies," Karen replied. "It just seems crazy that he would suggest this," Fu replied. Zabuza pulled out a Konoha headband and remarked, "But he is right. This is what's best. Besides, they're already enemies." The four disappeared as soon as Zabuza finished speaking. In the graveyard, "Let me out, please. For Kami's sake, please," Karashi cried out, repeatedly hitting the door of the coffin Hashi had placed him in with his fists. While Mamoru was eating a piece of meat, Hashi simply sat on a rock and drank his sake in silence. "Please? Let me out. I'm begging you," Karashi pleaded, his cheeks bleeding with fear. "Let me out. I want to go home." Kurama, who was astounded by how far Naruto would go to correct someone, remarked, "Geez kid, and here I thought I was brutal." As he drank the last of his sake and tossed it to the ground, Naruto thought, "Kids gotta learn." He then pulled up his lower half mask and put on his straw hat. Minato and Kushina remained silent, completely trusting their son despite the harshness and cruelty of his approach to correcting this boy. In the cemetery, Lee appeared out of nowhere. Lee yelled, "Where's Karashi?" and demanded an explanation. Karashi cried out for assistance. "Lee? Is that you? Help me, I'm in the ground." Neji landed beside Lee and said, "Dear Kami." With a serious expression on his face, Neji said, "You are ruthless." However, the sight of Hashi's serious glare made him feel uneasy. Hashi got up from the rock he was sitting on and said, "The boy must learn." Hashi had a point, but Neji didn't want to acknowledge it. This is what his boss did to innocent people. This is what he must be subjected to in order to truly learn and be reformed. Lee yelled, "Karashi, I'm coming." Karashi exclaimed, "Lee, thank you, please get me out loud." Hashi appeared in front of Lee as he attempted to travel to the location of Karashi's grave. Hashi stoically looked at Lee and said, "Sorry kid, but he isn't ready yet." "Forgive me for using such a tone, but get out of my way," Lee yelled. "Like I said kid, the boy isn't fully reformed yet, come back later," Hashi replied. With growing rage, Lee shook his fist at Hashi. "Help me," cried Karashi. The masked shinobi easily grabbed Lee's leg, punched the kneecap of the other leg, and threw away the leg he had in his grasp, causing Lee to spin around before slamming his palm in Lee's back and pushing the green-clad shinobi next to Neji. Lee had had enough and had sent a roundhouse kick to Hashi's head. Hashi just kept staring at Neji and Lee as they gaped at the masked shinobi's skill. Hashi said without emotion, "Like I said, come back later." Lee simply yelled a battle cry as he ran at Hashi and landed a series of blows, but Hashi easily sidestepped the blows and then slammed his fist into Lee's stomach, using some of his wind manipulation to send the green-clad man flying back into a tree. Neji yelled his teammate's name, Lee, before turning around and using his now activated Byakugan to glare at Hashi. After transforming into his Jukin, Neji ran towards Hashi and began striking him directly, but like Lee, Hashi simply batted away the blows. After breaking the long-haired teen out of his stance with a kick to the side of Neji's foot, Hashi butted Neji in the forehead and used wind manipulation to slam his fist into Neji's gut, sending the brunette with the long hair flying straight into Lee and then crashing through the tree. While Naruto was feeling terrible about fighting two of his old friends, Hashi just stared at them emotionlessly. "Don't beat yourself up, Naruto, you're doing what you know is right," Mamoru replied. "Do you genuinely think I'm acting appropriately?" Via their mind link, Naruto addressed the small fox kid. "Naruto, it's you. Of course you're doing the right thing. I always trust you," Mamoru replied. Naruto gave his best partner a smile. Naruto grinned behind his mask as the fox kid grinned and said, "Thank you, Mamoru." "Okay, you two. Stop lovingly. Kurama, I know they're getting back up. I'm a young assassin for an unidentified organization, so will you treat me like one now? I'm not the dumb little gaki from back in the day who couldn't tell the difference between a kunai and a shuriken." Naruto pondered in frustration. "Geez kid, fine, I'll start right now. You're a fucking cold-blooded monster." "You know you're an asshole," Kurama grinned and said, "I try my best." As he and Neji stood up, Lee remarked, "Neji, he's too powerful for us to fight alone." "You're right. Here's the plan. I go for a frontal assault with my Hake Rokuhuion Sho. 8 trigrams 60. 4 palms. And once I'm done you finish him off with Dynamiku Entori, like I need to say what the F that is. And after sending him back with a daze, we double team him," Neji replied. Lee said, "Agreed." Then, prepared to start their plan, Neji ran in Hashi's direction. Neji glared with his Byakugan and thought, "Now you're in my 8 trigrams. "Not this time, buddy," Naruto thought as he began to control the surrounding air to form a windshield around his body. "A pair of palms," Neji shouted as he sent 2 strikes at Hashi. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 60. 4 palms, 8 trigrams. Neji was shocked to discover that Hashi's chakra system was still intact after he had completed all of his strikes. Hashi took a deep breath and said, "My turn." He was throwing hand signals more quickly than anyone could see. In utter shock, Neji thought, Impossible, it was like I was hitting only air." Futon. "Renkuden," Hashi yelled as he spit out a giant air bullet that hit Neji all over his body, sending the young Hyuga flying. Lee was fortunate enough to jump over his friend's body and the jutsu before he sent a Dynamiku Entori straight at Hashi. However, the masked shinobi grabbed Lee's feet as they were inches from his face, twisted them, and sent wind chakra to his palm before striking Lee's foot while he was still in midair, sending the green-clad taijutsu specialist flying like a rocket until he hit the ground hard. Holding your own against Lee or Neji wasn't really that easy, especially for him back in the day, but the two fighting together, that's a different story. Either they're going easy on me or I'm stronger than I thought. Naruto was amazed at how far he's come since being a dead last shinobi. Neji eventually got back up as Lee approached him. Lee, panting from pain, remarked, "Neji, he's too powerful to strike alone. We must strike at him together." Neji said, "Agreed." The two then charged at one another, but Hashi was ready, closing his eyes and using the wind to propel himself forward. "Let's go, Hashi," Naruto thought as he opened his eyes and glared at the two. Neji and Lee began to launch strong, quick blows at Hashi, but Hashi was dodging them all as if he could see them coming. With growing anxiety and annoyance, Neji thought, "We're not even laying a single hit on him." "He's amazing," Lee thought in awe, but he was still upset that he was unable to hit him and that Karashi was relying on him. Hashi, tired of playing with his two old friends, used wind manipulation behind his 2 fists to punch them in the gut, causing them to spit up their saliva before being propelled to the hard ground. "Yes. That's my best friend and partner," Mamoru yelled, but to the rest of the world that wasn't made of foxes or his best friend Naruto, it all sounded like a series of happy yips. Lee then opened Hachiman's 4th gate and charged at Hashi, but the masked shinobi disappeared and reappeared behind him, knocking the taijutsu expert unconscious for a moment before grabbing the back of his head and throwing him back to where the masked shinobi had sent him. Neji staggered back up before racing past Hashi and towards Lee, who was also staggering back up. Lee, panting and in excruciating pain with each breath, said, "Neji, this isn't good, we must think of something else." "Alright, here's the new plan. We charge at him once again, but this time you throw smokes bombs his way and you do so, I'll throw kunai attached with bomb tags, distracting him, then I go for a palm strike to his heart and you go for a blow to his skull." Neji had planned. Lee said, understood. He didn't want to use a potentially fatal tactic, but he would persevere if it meant saving Kurashi. The two of them got up and prepared themselves. Are you ready, Lee? Neji remarked while getting a kunai tag bomb ready. As he got the smoke bombs ready, Lee said, ready. Naruto then put his hand down and headed straight towards the spot where he buried Kurashi, and as he stopped in front of it, he picked up a shovel and turned to smile at the two Konoha shinobi and gave them eye smiles. Lee was about to throw the smoke bombs, but Hashi suddenly put his hand up as a sign of halt. Neji and Lee stopped their attack, but they don't understand why. Naruto said, see, you should have just waited. The two stared at him in complete disbelief, their mouths hanging open at how quickly Hashi had completely taken control of their asses. Well, as he began to dig, Hashi remarked, are you going to assist me or what? You know you could use a shovel, there'd be less of a chance of me stabbing your hands with my own. Hashi asked, grinning at them. Neji didn't know how to respond, but Lee hurried to the location of Kurashi's burial and began using his hands to dig him out. After a few minutes of digging, the coffin was uncovered, and Lee grabbed the lid and tore the door off its hinges, revealing Kurashi in a fetal position. Kurashi! Lee joyfully yelled his friend's name. With tears streaming down his face, Kurashi said, Mother, I'm sorry. Kurashi! Lee uttered his friend's name in a startled and bewildered manner. Mom, please accept my sincere apologies. All I want is to return home and spend time with you once more. Please pardon me. I want to return home and be with you once more. I don't want to be a monster like Raiga. Kurashi began to cry and said, Please, Mother, I love you. Lee shook Kurashi's shoulder, causing the young boy to recoil in response. Kurashi, it is your friend Lee. Hashi got a good laugh when he said, Hey, that rhymed. Neji gave him a fierce look while his Byakugan pulsed. You believe that this is just a game? Neji shouted. Hashi then gave Neji a furious glare and sent him so much murderous intent that Neji was paralyzed with fear and thought he might pass out at any moment. With an icy tone, Hashi said, Don't you dare ever say that to me again. However, his entire expression changed to one of cheeriness and friendly eye smiles. All right? This man is insane, Neji thought in terror. Lee? Kurashi said the name of the boy with the bowl-cut hair. Lee grinned and said, Yes Kurashi, you're your friend. Kurashi began to cry with happiness and clung to Lee's form. Fitting suit. Hey Lee. Thank you so much, Kami. Lee, I apologize for everything, I want to be strong, but not in this way. All I want is to return home and be with my mother. As he spilled his hot tears on Lee's clothes, Kurashi sobbed. Determined to assist his friend, Lee said, It is all right Kurashi, I will bring you home and help you become strong and reach true youthful strength. Hashi then approached the two, keeping Neji on guard in case the masked shinobi was going to try something. Hashi caught the two's attention by saying, Hey kid. Kurashi screamed in terror at the man who had placed him in what he believed to be his grave. Please stop. My lesson has been learned. Sincere. Simply no more, Kurashi pleaded. Stop being such a bitch, kid. Naruto had said without missing a beat, when you see the man who put you in your grave, you gotta show some balls and glare at him. Show him that you're willing to show some gusto. Even if it's false courage, you should never rear your glare waver, because as long as you're willing to not let them get to you and to always stand up when they're knocked down, then you will show true strength and will never be defeated. Kurashi was shocked by Hashi was a great man who only spoke the truth. Lee and Neji were also taken aback. Kurashi replied, He's hidden inside an abandoned home just near of here. What makes you want to locate this individual? Neji inquired, unsure of Hashi's motivation. The man who was considered his caregiver was a missing nin, and a very dangerous one at that, and right before I killed him not too long ago, he begged of me to take Idate and care for him. I may not seem like a nice guy, but my friends and I wish to make Idate stronger, to make him into a true shinobi. Hashi continued. With a lot of youth, Lee said, we could make him stronger. I feel it would be best for Idate to be in the care of those who understand him, like myself, said Naruto. How do you interpret him? Neji inquired, and Hashi sighed before closing his eyes and opening them again with a serious expression. As he grabbed Mamoru and put him in the pouch inside his cloak, Naruto said, Back in my old village, I used to be the dead. Last. Lee, Neji, and Kurashi stared at Hashi in disbelief, thinking that someone as strong and talented as Hashi could not possibly be a dead last ranked in his village, but his eyes showed no deceit. Please lead me to him. Kurashi nodded as he began to guide Hashi to where Idate was hiding, with Lee and Neji following. Alongside the members of Akatsuki, Zabuza had already visited 3 bases, with the Fu and Karen taking one and Haku taking the other 3. He had finished killing the Auto.Nin in the base of one of the last Auto bases in the village he was in, and he was now planting the bombs inside. "Are you girls prepared to blow this shit up?" Zabuza inquired. Fu and Karen said, "Hi. Where's Haku? What a minute." Suddenly 3 of the bases exploded far in the distance. "Shit. Set the bombs off." Zabuza gave the order. "Kai." The 3 of them made a hand gesture and shouted, causing several explosions throughout the village. "They're off, but where is Haku?" Fu inquired about her teammate, concerned about her. She didn't want anyone to vie for Naruto's love, but she also didn't want the dark-haired girl dead, as they were best friends and considered one another to be sisters. "Don't worry, she's fine. I sense her chakra heading back towards the place where we kept the young boy from earlier," Karen responded. "Well, at least she's safe. What about Zabuza? Senpai now?" Fu questioned her boss. "We take care of the remaining Auto.Nin in the village," said Zabuza. "How about Haku?" With no opportunity for debate, Zabuza declared, "Haku's a big girl. She can take care of herself. Now let's move." The 3 of them returned to the village to eliminate the remaining Auto.Nins. Alongside Sakura, Akiko, Tenten, and Sasuke after the 4 succeeded in removing the remaining villagers from the village. Akiko met with her older brother and sister. However, she was devastated to learn that her father had been killed by the Auto.Nin a few days prior. Her mother had passed away when she was very young, and now her father had also passed away, leaving only her and her siblings. In an attempt to console her friend, Sakura said, "I'm so sorry about all this, Akiko." Sakura-san, don't worry. As Akiko dried her tears, she said, "Even though my father is no longer with me, I will be okay as long as Naruto-kun's statue is still standing." "You think a statue is so important?" Tenten inquired as Sakura and she were taken aback and Sasuke remained silent. They acknowledged that a huge golden statue of their friend was significant, but they were astounded that Akiko would be able to cope with her father's passing so effectively thanks to such a monument. "Yes." Akiko nodded while maintaining her smile. "Naruto.kun meant a lot to me the day I met him." Sasuke grinned as he said, "Every time I see that statue, I see Naruto.kun watching out for our village, guaranteeing a brighter future for our village, and even though there will be darker times ahead of us, Naruto-kun's smile always tells me that as long as we are all willing to keep moving forward and to never surrender without a fight and, till our deaths, then we'll always see a brighter dawn ahead." Tenten, Sakura, and the other villagers stared at her in amazement while Sasuke grinned. "That statue means more to me than anything, for to me it is not just a monument to the only man I'll ever love, but is also a symbol of my village's hope and future," Akiko concluded. Sakura sobbed as she and the others grinned at what Akiko had said. Previously, the statue had only been dedicated to a brave young boy who gave his life to save their chief's daughter, but now it is seen by them as what Akiko sees it as, a symbol of their hope and the future of their home. Sasuke was overjoyed to learn this. Sakura wiped away her tears and grinned at Akiko. "You hear that, brother? You not only mean something to Konoha and Wave, but also to these people as well," Sasuke thought with joy and pride. The orange-haired girl gave Sakura a perplexed look when she said, "Akiko, thank you." Sakura grinned and said, "Like you, I love Naruto too, and it just makes me so happy that there is a place that sees him like a true hero just like I do." Akiko grinned back. Akiko grinned as she thought, "I really wish I could tell you that he's alive, Sakura-san. But knowing Naruto.kun, he must have a reason to keep the news of his living a secret, but I know that someday he will return to you, as he's done for me." The two had a deep love for a young man, and that love would last forever because it would never end. Everyone turned to see that the village was on fire when they heard explosions coming from it. Aiko, Akiko's older sister, said fearfully, "Oh Kami, no." Aiko had ruby eyes and reddish-orange hair, and she was dressed in black pants, sandals, and ruby kippah. "I'll go check it out. Sakura, Tenten, stay here and protect the villagers just in case any Auto.Nin arrive," Sasuke replied. The 2 kunoichi nodded and said, "Hi." Sasuke then disappeared, leaving the group as a whole. Akihiko, Akiko's older brother, was wearing a black shirt, baggy beige pants, black sandals, and medium-length brunette hair that was slightly spiked up in the front. "I know the places that were blown to smithereens. Those are the Auto bases. This is so not good," Akihiko said fearfully. "How can that be bad?" Sakura and Tenten were genuinely perplexed, so Tenten asked. Fearfully, Akihiko remarked, "It's great for the village, but it's not for the people who did this." "But why?" Sakura inquired. When Sakura heard the name of the man who killed her true love, her eyes widened in shock. General Dai. Akihiko said, frightening his fellow villagers. Who is that? Tenten inquired. With shivers down her spine, Aiko recalled the monster in a mask. He's a monster. He led the invasion on our home. He killed countless members of our soldiers single-handedly along with our buildings and bases, and he kills any one of his men if they question even the simplest of his commands. Tenten, who had never even met the man in person, expressed genuine fear of him by saying, Kami, he really does sound like a monster. Sakura's fist trembled with rage as she said, he not only did that, he's the bastard who killed Naruto. I swear when I see that Dai bastard he's going to regret everything he's ever done, the statement said, causing everyone's eyes to widen with shock. It's true, Sakura yelled, pumping her fist in the air. Akiko was concerned about this small piece of information because Dai would be searching for Naruto since he is with this enigmatic group wearing cloaks and they have definitely destroyed the bases. With concern for her fiancé, Akiko thought, Naruto-kun, please be safe. Alongside Haku the young lavender boy was still tied to the pole and staring at her when Haku opened the door after the others had placed him outside the house. You really returned for me? Renmara expressed surprise that she had returned for him. Taking off her mask and hood, Haku said, of course I did. Her gorgeous face made Renmara blush, and she said, let's get you out of there. She took a kunai from her holster and cut the ropes that bound Renmara to the pole. Renmara would have fallen to the ground, but Haku caught him and placed him on her back. Let's go. Haku said, leaving with Renmara on her back. Why do you assist me? Still perplexed as to why this young lady would aid him, the enemy, Renmara asked. Renmara was shocked to hear this. He would never in his life believe that he had met someone who fully understood him. From where I was born, a civil war was happening where those who had Kekkei Genkai were hunted down and executed. Haku continued to look ahead and said, because like you, I had sworn my life to a man who had saved my own life, to become his weapon until I became dull. Haku nodded in agreement as Renmara remarked, I remember that war. That back in Kiri when Raiga was still a shinobi Anbu working for them. You're right. Haku remarked, I was born with a special Kekkei Genkai, one of ice manipulation. You're a Yuki. I've heard of that bloodline. Haku smiled when Renmara remarked, I've heard that your bloodline jutsus are beautiful. It's very kind of you to say thank you. Renmara's eyes widened in shock and horror. After that, I lived on the streets. I showed my mother my power, but she slapped me and told me not to do it again because she was afraid my father would find out. Unfortunately, he did, and in his panic, he killed my mother and then attempted to kill me. I instinctively called forth my Kekkei Genkai, killing him before he could kill me. Before I met him, every day felt like a living hell as I struggled to survive. Who was it? Renmara said, the man who saved you. He was a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen, just like Raiga. His name was Zabuza Momochi. I vowed to fight for Zabuza Sama and to dedicate my life to him after he saved me, took me in, and trained me to be his weapon. Haku said, without Zabuza Sama, I am nothing, I would have no reason to live, my existence would be meaningless. Renmara blinked his wide eyes in surprise, realizing that this young woman fully understood him. At least that's what I once believed. Renmara was taken aback by her new statement. What took place? Why did you think differently? More than anything, Renmara wanted to know the answer, so he asked. Naruto-kun changed me, or as he's better known around here, Hashi. Haku responded. Renmara was astounded to learn, the man who killed Raiga. He taught me that my life was already meaningless. Haku replied. But why do you think this is true? I assumed Zabuza was very important to you. Confused, Renmara said. He was and still is, but I have a question for you. Do you believe that my life had purpose when I was only a weapon? At first, I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me as I tried to deny every single word he spoke, but it wasn't until I died that I realized what Naruto was telling me, Haku asked, leaving Renmara utterly stunned. I didn't see her as just a weapon, but his life was different. Actually, no it wasn't. Renmara had now started to question his existence. I am a living human being who deserves to see her own happiness, I am not a weapon. How about Zabuza, though? Renmara inquired. I still love him and he's by my side. Haku smiled and Renmara blinked in surprise. Just because I decided not to be a weapon doesn't mean I lost Zabuza Sama, he is still a very close friend to me. In fact, I'm like a daughter to him, and he is like a father to me. You claim to have passed away before, so how are you still alive? Renmara inquired. I was given a second chance when a friend of mine revived Zabuza and me. I didn't squander or take a second chance for granted. Considering everything she now had and was thankful for, Haku remarked, I decided not to be a weapon, and on that path, I've made so many friends. I still had Zabuza Sama by my side, and I fell in love. I see, but I want to know if you love Raiga and treat him like a member of your family. Renmara nodded when Haku asked, then you are not a weapon, for weapons do not feel emotions. Haku's statement startled Renmara. But I feel that, if I let go of Raiga, then I'll have no one. Renmara replied. Haku grinned and said, well, you now have me. Renmara stared at Haku in utter astonishment, and after a moment of processing the situation, he began to cry happy tears and embraced Haku as tightly as his frail arms would allow. Haku grinned at the young boy as she began to cry. I promise, that no matter what happens, I shall always protect you, Renmara.kun. After more traveling, Haku arrived at her destination. Renmara opened his eyes, sensing that the dark-haired girl had stopped walking, and his eyes widened in surprise when he saw two twin blades sticking out of a pile of rocks. Raiga, alongside Idate. Kurashi placed Idate in an abandoned house so that he would be safe from any dangers, but he was cowering in terror as he sat there, terrified of what lay outside. Idate began to cry, hoping that his older brother would come rescue him and take him home. Aoi. Sensei is dead, I'm all alone with no one to help me, and anyone could come in and kill me at any moment now. Ni.san, I wish you were here, I want you here by my side, even if you're still mad at me for all I've done, I don't care. I just want you with me right now. This entire scene isn't really enduring, is it? Idate turned to see Naruto, the masked man who had killed Aoi. Why are you here, Naruto? Idate inquired. I'm here for you. Idate was sitting next to Naruto. I want to help you, Idate, to help you grow stronger, to be a shinobi you can be proud of, to help you go back home with no worries. How will you accomplish that? Idate inquired. Naruto held out his hand to Idate and said, with the help of the people who made me this strong, I want to give you a chance, just like they gave me. Would you accept? Idate first glanced at Naruto's hand before meeting his eyes. You know, even though you were a mischievous punk, you were one of the only few people I felt I could truly trust. Idate replied. Then, do you still have faith in me? Idate wiped away his tears and grinned at Naruto as he asked. Idate took Naruto's hand and helped him up, saying, with all my heart. Thank you, Naruto. I want to keep a low profile, so just call me Hashi until we return to my group base. Naruto uttered those words. Idate grinned and said, got ya, Hashi. Naruto tipped his straw hat up and said, good. The two then went out of the house to meet with Lee, Neji, and Kurashi. You're doing fine. The five-person group turned to face Hashi's friends. Tetsuo, Hana, Aika, meet Idate, he will be joining us back to headquarters. Hashi or Naruto said. Nice to meet you. Karen, Aika bowed respectfully. Hana, Fu waved to Idate and said, yeah, hi. Tetsuo, Zabuza glared at Idate and Kurashi, saying, not that I don't like greeting the fresh meat. I mean new members, but we have a problem. I recognize that. Where is she now? Naruto, Hashi inquired. Aika, Karen stated, 108 degrees west of here. I get it. Hashi, Naruto pointed them at Kurashi, Lee, and Neji and said, you guys get these three. To where the villagers are being held by the rest of the Konoha.nin. I'll go find Kaya. Aika, Karen and Hana, Fu said, understood. Tetsuo, Zabuza simply grunted, okay. Aika. Karen handed Idate a mask and said, here, wear this. Idate put the mask on without asking any questions. Hana, Fu said, come on pretty boy. She took hold of Kurashi's wrist and began pulling him toward the other villagers, with Karen guiding them all. Everyone followed Aika, Karen to the location of the other villagers and Konoha.nin, and Naruto then followed Karen's instructions to find Haku. Naruto headed for his friend's location and said, 108 degrees west of here. Oh Kami, please don't let that be where I think it is. In the middle of the village a man wearing a mask and heavy armor gazed at his base's flaming devastation. Somebody is going to die tonight. Day's men gulped as he said this with a serious glare. Fearfully, one of the Nins thought, Kami, please don't let it be us. Close to a demolished Auto base as he approached the demolished base, Sasuke saw a Konoha Hitai.8 at his feet with a crack on its left side. Squatting down, he grabbed the Hitai.8 and swore at it, saying, bastards. His grip on the forehead protector tightened, and his Sharingan glowed red with rage. Alongside Renmara and Haku, Renmara gazed at the twin swords attached to his other half's body, which lay beneath a heap of stones. What brought me here? Renmara inquired. Haku told the young boy, Raiga means so much to you. I figured that you wished to see him again and say your final words to him. Renmara nodded in Haku's direction after noticing a faint pulse coming from Raiga's body. May I take a seat next to him? Raiga, you gave my life meaning. I was just waiting to die, but you came and saved me, Renmara said, and Haku nodded sympathetically as she approached Raiga's corpse and placed Mamoru beside the buried swordsman. Mamoru then took one of Raiga's arms as he gazed at his buried friend. That's why, Renmara said, hugging the arm, you were my first and greatest friend. His eyes glowed red as he began to channel his chakra into Raiga's system, saying, I cannot let you die. Haku watched the moment with wide eyes. Haku wondered, what is he doing? As he completed channeling his chakra into Raiga, Renmara said, I do not want your life to end, Raiga. This is my gift to you, for everything you've done for me. He then passed out. Hey, Renmara! Haku yelled the young boy's name as she ran to him, grabbed his body and started to cradle it. Renmara, wake up please. The young boy still remained unmoving. Please, don't leave me, Haku said as she hugged the young boy's body and started to cry. Haku quickly ran off to the side and placed the boy on the side of the cliff's wall and then dug into her bag and took out a container of the famous curry of life that she took from the curry of life shop. Haku opened the container and took out a spoonful and tried to feed it to Renmara. Please, eat this, I beg of you, Haku said, but the lavender-haired boy just wouldn't do anything as he still remained unconscious, but Haku was determined to make sure that Renmara lived, so she opened the boy's mouth and placed it inside his mouth as she then helped him chew it. Come on Renmara, please do something, Haku pleaded. Suddenly Renmara reacted and swallowed the curry. That's it, good Renmara, keep it up, Haku said as she then started feed Renmara more of the curry. Haku kept feeding it to him, but then Renmara stopped responding. No, Renmara, don't do this, Haku said, cupping the boy's cheeks. Renmara still didn't respond. Kami, no, Haku hugged the boy close to her as she started to cry. Renmara, please don't leave me, Haku said as tears came down her eyes. You're important to me, you understand me, you remind me of myself, and I saved you, you mean so much to me, and I can't be happy without you. You may not know me, but I know you, and I love you, please come back to me, Haku said as she continued to cry over the boy, but unknown to her, Renmara had heard the entire thing. Renmara looked up at the dark-haired young woman and smiled at her as tears ran down his eyes. Haku, thank you, Renmara thought as he reached for her cheek and touched it. Haku's eyes widened as he looked down and saw the young boy grinning at her. She couldn't help but smile back at him and give him a tight hug. Now I know that my existence really does have meaning, Renmara said as he gave her a hug in return. Naruto was grinning down on them from the top of the cliff above them, beneath his mask. The rocks surrounding Raiga exploded and scattered away from his body, revealing a roaring Raiga, fully healed and completely out of his mind with the maniacal laughter to boot. Looks like you did what I was never able to do the first time around, huh Haku? Chan? Naruto thought with a smile before a bolt of lightning struck Raiga's twin blades out of the sky. Yeah, not good, Naruto thought worriedly. That cloak, you're with the blonde one, get away from Renmara, Raiga said, turning to see Renmara in the arms of an enigmatic dark-haired girl. Raiga roared into the sky as lightning struck him, danced around him, and covered him in lightning. With fresh concern, Haku remarked, he's using the natural energy of the storm's lightning to give him power. If I try anything I'll get fried. With a menacing smile, Naruto thought, thank Kami, I can control the wind, so this might make for an interesting fight. I told you to leave. Raiga was about to strike Haku with a strong lightning strike. No, quit. Don't hurt her Raiga, shouted Renmara as he escaped Haku's hold and stood erect before Haku. Renmara shouted. Renmara. With a start, Raiga uttered the name of his other half. What are you doing? Raiga yelled, and Renmara reached for the container containing the remaining curry of life and held it out to her. Renmara said, eat this. What? I'm confused, Raiga said. You'll realize you're not alone if you eat it. When I first had it, I sensed how its spices melded the emotions of all people, Renmara remarked. Is he talking about that awesome curry? Naruto asked himself, squatting down to get a better look at the three. Fortunately, his enhanced hearing allows him to hear everything because he is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. What do you say? Raiga remarked, still perplexed. Renmara pleaded, please, we have to stop, we've hurt too many. No, enough. You've always been my eyes and ears, Raiga cried, clenching his fists to his ears. If you don't quit saying all this self-centered bullshit, we are no longer a single entity, Raiga yelled. Naruto thought Raiga was a complete crazy person. Selfish nonsense. This coming from a man who always enjoys seeing people get buried alive for his own amusement. This guy's nuts. Then strike me with your lightning. If I perish, the powerful Raiga also perishes. Raiga, Haku, and Hashi gave Renmara a startled look when he said, because we will always be one. Naruto remarked, kid has balls. I like him. Raiga raised his twin swords and declared, I have to give you a funeral. I won't be able to remember you anymore. Raiga pointed his blades at Renmara, prepared to fire, and screamed to the heavens as he summoned lightning from the storm directly to his blades, sending lightning rushing around Raiga's body. No, I will not let you hurt him, Haku yelled as she ran defensively in front of Renmara, glaring angrily at Raiga. Raiga then stopped attacking and glared at Haku. All right, after that, I'll stab you in the heart. With both of his blades poised to pierce Haku's chest, Raiga screamed as he charged at her. No, Haku. Raiga was about to stab the dark-haired girl when Renmara screamed, but an even more powerful sword deflected his thrusts, and Raiga jumped back when he saw the masked boy he had previously battled. Raiga glared angrily at Naruto and growled, you. Haku exclaimed, startled and relieved, Naruto-kun. Sorry about not jumping in earlier, I figured it was best for the kid to have closure first or something. Naruto said, let me handle this guy, you take the kid back to the others. Haku nodded as she grabbed Renmara and put him on her back. Renmara. Naruto addressed the lavender-haired boy, drawing his attention. Take care of Haku, okay? Haku and Renmara heard some dripping and noticed some blood traces next to Naruto's foot. As much as you need her, she needs you, Naruto said, turning to reveal that his left eye was bleeding after being stabbed by one of Raiga's twin blades, rendering it useless. All right? Naruto remarked, grinning with his lone good eye. Your eye. Haku was equally astounded as Renmara. Naruto called Yupong, his little fox kit friend, who leapt out of his cloak, Mamoru. Don't worry about it. You just need one to fight. Naruto continued to smile. Guard these two while I take on Raiga. Okay. Naruto said, getting a little salute from the fox kit. Good. Go now. You all. Naruto turned back to face Raiga and exclaimed, and Renmara gave him an empathetic nod. Renmara said, let's go Haku. However, Haku remained motionless, stunned that Naruto had only one eye left after saving her. Go. Haku. I dislike being the same thing twice. Haku continued to stare at Naruto with sorrowful eyes as he yelled, sounding like an irate leader. Haku then grinned abruptly as Renmara said, Haku, we must go. Do not blame yourself for what just happened to Naruto. Haku grinned and said, you truly do understand me, Renmara. We'll see you later with the others. Haku then began to flee in an attempt to locate the others, with Mamoru trailing behind. Return here. Raiga shouted as he attempted to pursue Haku and Renmara, but Naruto materialized in front of him and used wind manipulation to slam the green-haired man's chest with his palm, sending him flying backwards into a massive rock wall. With his now single eye glaring at Raiga, Naruto said, your business is with me now. Besides, I owe you for my left eye. Naruto pointed to what was once his left eye as Raiga emerged from the wall and gave him a glare. As he prepared his blades, Raiga said, once you die. He pointed his twin blades directly at the sky, where lightning struck them before enveloping Raiga in lightning. Your funeral will be one to remember. Naruto kept glaring at the crazy man with his lone eye while Raiga roared and screamed. Naruto and Raiga ran at each other, their blades colliding. Awful. Raiga yelled with a grin as he summoned lightning straight down from the clouds and struck Naruto with a vast amount of lightning as Raiga jumped away. Naruto was hit with a great amount of lightning, but the blonde gritted his teeth and glared at Raiga as he was having jolts of lightning hitting him, destroying his straw hat and created a few holes on his lower half mask. As the lightning stopped, Naruto's gritting teeth became a dangerous grin that shocked Raiga. How? Raiga exclaimed, startled and perplexed. I face both Zabuza and Kisame at the same time for my kenjutsu training. Strikes of lightning are nothing compared to feeling like your bones have been broken and mixed up with the feeling of falling over from having so much blood bleed out of your body. Naruto continued with a maniacal grin. Die. Grr. Raiga screamed and then sent lightning down from the sky to strike Naruto once more, but the blonde just kept grinning at the other swordsman as it disappeared. Still alive. Naruto said, chuckling afterwards. Raiga then sent more lightning straight at Naruto, over and over again, but the blonde just laughed at he was getting struck by lightning. The Uzumaki was surrounding himself with a wind shield so he could take as many strikes of lightning as he can and still come back sort of all right. The sort of part was because he was injured from the first strike, plus he didn't have a working left eye anymore. After another strike of lightning, Naruto dashed at Raiga and went for his head with Shokin, but Raiga blocked them with Kiba. Yes, the swords are named after Naruto's friend, but of course it fits since Kiba means fangs. But Naruto saw this coming as he kneed Raiga in the gut, making the green-haired swordsman gasp out air, and then he was kicked out of his fighting stance and then was sent flying by a kicking uppercut. Naruto then vanished and appeared behind Raiga and was about to grab him and put him in an Omet Renge. Front Lotus aka Primary Lotus. But Raiga screamed to the heavens and conjured lightning to straight towards his body, making a lightning made of armor. Naruto vanished and appeared onto the ground with a hand sign and his chest expanded. Futon. Renkuden. Naruto shouted as he shot a giant drilling bullet of air straight towards Raiga. The green-haired swordsman landed onto the floor and tried to block off the attack with Kiba that still had lightning coursing into the twin swords to lessen the jutsu's impact on his body, but as the bullet hit its mark, Raiga let out a painful yell as he was hit and sent flying back. Raiga got back up as Naruto started making his way towards the Kiri swordsman, and now resorting to more drastic measures, Raiga put both blades of Kiba together and aimed them into the sky, summoning lightning that covered his entire body, making Naruto stop because the blonde wanted to see what Raiga was planning to do now. Naruto smirked at Raiga as the green-haired man started spinning in place, forming a whirling vortex of wind and electricity, and now formed a dragon's head. Cute, you made a friend. Naruto said, still smirking. Naruto created 2 clones without the need for hand signs and extended his hand as the 3 started creating a jutsu. What is he doing? What is he creating? I will not let him finish. Raiga thought as he fired his jutsu into the sky, which then shot directly towards him. Naruto grinned as his clones vanished into clouds of smoke. He then raised his Rasen Shuriken and threw it directly at the dragon, overpowering it as the 2 jutsu collided because Raiga's jutsu was also made of wind chakra. The now giant Rasen Shuriken flew into the sky, exploded into a sphere of wind chakra before vanishing. Raiga stared up into the sky in shock that his jutsu was totally defeated. Raiga thought in terror, good Kami, what is he? I hope that wasn't your best tactic because you'll need more to defeat me in a fight to the death. Shokin was in Naruto's hands when he ran at Raiga. Ready to stab him in the chest, he yelled. Raiga was prepared to block Naruto's blow, but Shokin shocked the green-haired man by stabbing him right through the torso. But how? You were farther away, Raiga uttered incredulously. I made a clone before the fight to create a genjutsu. I was 1 step ahead of you this whole time, Naruto remarked as a clone of himself with both eyes intact appeared next to the 2, indicating that he had created a clone prior to saving Haku and Renmara. Not really. Naruto pulled Shokin from Raiga's chest, letting the long-haired man drop to his knees as the fresh wound in his chest began to bleed. Well, you know, I didn't hear your attack at Haku that cost me my eye, but after that you were of no threat to me, Naruto said. Raiga fell to the ground and began to crawl past Naruto, saying, no, I can't die like this, I need to be there for him. Raiga continued to crawl, leaving a trail of blood behind him, saying, Renmara, I'm coming Renmara. Naruto pondered, the guy is still pursuing the child, and he wants to protect him. This guy and Renmara may have a relationship similar to Zabuza and Haku, but this guy isn't afraid to show how important Renmara is to him. Raiga continued to crawl and said, don't worry, Renmara, I'm coming. Raiga stopped crawling when Naruto said, just let the kid go. Raiga replied, no, I must, I'm all he has. You understand him, but Haku not only understands him, but he can also make him into something better, to enrich his life with things you couldn't do yourself, to bring him friends, to give him real love, and he will also make Haku's life complete in return. Naruto responded, wrong, he's all you had, but now he has much more, he has Haku. Don't you want to give him the opportunity to live a wonderful life without burdening him? Raiga remained silent as tears began to well up in his eyes without any funeral to trigger them. Raiga said, you're right, I am being a burden. Naruto knelt down and held out his hand. Naruto smiled on his now bare-scarred face and remarked, but that doesn't mean you can't be by his side all the way. No. That's exactly what it means. Raiga abruptly sat up on his knees and shocked Naruto by stabbing himself through the heart with one of his blades. Renmara. You're now free. Raiga said his final words as he collapsed onto his back, and Naruto got up and gave Raiga a dejected look. After grabbing the 2 blades known as Kiba and sealing them away with a sealing scroll, Naruto said, you stupid old man, before pulling up his mask, grabbing Raiga's body, and carrying him all the way to where he felt Mamoru's energy was. With Mamoru, Renmara, and Haku with Mamoru running beside her and Renmara on her back, Haku kept running. Haku. Mamoru. The party of 3 stopped to see the other Akatsuki members along with another person appearing in front of them. You two are alright. Fu added, and you got the boy too. Yes. Who is he? Regarding the brunette boy beside them, Haku remarked. This is Idate. Naruto said he'll be joining us as a new member of the Akatsuki, Karen stated. Idate bowed courteously to the 3 in front of him, saying, Hello. Haku gave the boy a nod while Mamoru yipped. Where is the brat? Speaking of him, Zabuza inquired. And I thought I told you to go find the villagers and stay with them. Everyone turned to see the blonde boy carrying Raiga's body, right here. By the way, what happened to your eye? Zabuza replied, we said screw your command and went to find Haku instead. Naruto remarked, Raiga stabbed it when I saved Haku from getting pierced by Kiba. Renmara gazed at Raiga's corpse with sad, shimmering eyes. Raiga, Renmara thought sorrowfully. With a single sorrowful eye, Naruto said, I'm sorry, I know you didn't want to see him like this, but I figured that you'd want to say your final words to him. Once we give him a proper funeral of course. Renmara simply nodded while keeping his gaze on Raiga's beaming face. Why are you smiling, Raiga? After a short while. Naruto got up and walked beside Haku after they had finished hammering down the wooden cross they had made. We are gathered here to honor the Kirigakure no Raijin, also known as Raiga Kurasuki. With respect for the deceased, Naruto remarked, he was a man, a shinobi, and a good friend. As Renmara gazed at Raiga's grave, tears were streaming down his face, and Haku put her hand on his shoulder to console him. If anyone would like to say a few words, now is the time. Well, all I can say is that he was pretty damn good swordsman when he wanted to be, said Zabuza. You, Renmara? Naruto inquired. Many people thought Raiga was a terrible person, but in reality, he was a tortured soul. I finally found a friend who could assist me in finding the answers, so the day he found me was regarded as the best day of my life. Renmara sobbed as he said, I have Raiga to thank for it, and even though he can't be by my side anymore, I wish he could experience it with me. And through all the pain and sorrow we suffered and gave, I finally found what I was looking for. I will always think of Raiga as my best friend, father figure, and hero, regardless of what happens. Whether the sky starts to fall apart, the earth is destroyed by fire, or the sun sets. And that fact won't alter until the end of time. Renmara finished as he began to cry, saying, Goodbye Raiga, thank you for being my friend. Haku knelt down and comforted the boy with a motherly hug. May this man who has performed countless sin be forgiven and entered into the holy world ruled by Kami, said Naruto. As they all began to depart, everyone said, Amen. Haku placed Renmara back on her back, but she soon realized that Naruto was going somewhere else. Where are you going? Naruto.kun. The others stopped when Haku asked. Naruto turned to face them and said, I've got one last piece of business to take care of. Here. He threw Haku a sealing scroll, saying, the twin swords Kiba are within the scroll. Before turning to leave, Naruto said, Go on ahead, I'll catch up with you guys later. Mamoru, keep an eye on them. Everyone simply turned to leave, wishing Naruto luck on whatever he had left to do. On top of a cliff with the half-cracked Konoha Hitai.8 in one hand and Tamashi in the other, Sasuke was gazing down at the village. Why did you act in that way? Sensing Hashi's presence, Sasuke demanded answers, asking, Why did you blame us for this? Respond to me. It's simple. Since your village is at war with Otto, it just makes sense to keep my group a secret from the outside world. Since you guys are already here, it's the ideal cover up for us, Hashi replied casually. Staring at the one-eyed Hashi, whose left eye was bandaged, Sasuke said, Regardless of your reason, I will make you pay. He put the headband away and assumed his Kenjutsu stance, holding Tamashi's handle while Hashi, Naruto grabbed Shokun's handle on his back as his cloak vanished as golden flames consumed it. The two glared at each other with strong, determined eyes. So this is what they call a heartwarming family reunion. Naruto was prepared for this moment because he had taken a soldier pill before coming here. After glaring at each other for a moment, the two charged at each other. Sasuke took Tamashi out of its scabbard, and Hashi, Naruto took Shokan off his back. The two then clashed blades as they glared at each other, and for some reason, this felt right to them. It was as if the two and their swords were meant to clash. To find a weakness in their opponent's technique, Hashi and Sasuke jumped back a little and clashed their swords once more, sending slash after slash at each other and parrying every attack. When Hashi attempted to block a slash that was headed for his head, Tamashi went through it like it was a ghost sword. What? Naruto thought, but as he leapt back, he felt a cut to his torso. The hell? He thought, until he realized what was going on. Kurama, a little help. When Sasuke's Sharingan's genjutsu was cancelled, Hashi saw Sasuke send a downward slash towards him and blocked the attack with Shokin. The Uchiha's eyes were filled with shock at how this could have happened as he and Hashi clashed swords once more. Kurama said, "Wondered when you'd notice." "How did he break my genjutsu?" Sasuke thought with shock. Hashi then kicked Sasuke away and threw Shokin straight at the Uchiha, making Sasuke dodge the broadsword, but Hashi smirked behind his mask as he unnoticeably moved his hand to gesture, "Wait," and with that command, Shokin stopped in midair. Hashi then made the hand gesture of, "Turn around," making Shokin flip with the tip of its blade pointing at Sasuke, before Naruto made the hand gesture of, "Come here," making the sword go straight towards Sasuke at high speed. Sasuke's eyes widened as he sensed trouble from behind. Sasuke turned around and saw Shokin heading straight towards him, ready to stab him, but the Uchiha jumped to the side, dodging the powerful blade. "What the hell? How is that possible?" Sasuke thought, but then he was kicked in the face, sending him flying. Sasuke managed to land on his feet and glare at Hashi as Shokin came back to his hand like magic. "I don't know how he does that, but now I know that I should always be wary of when that sword isn't in his hands," Sasuke thought as he then disappeared from sight. Hashi quickly listened in to the change of winds to determine where Sasuke would be, and he found him. "Found you?" Naruto thought as he threw his sword aside, causing it to collide with Sasuke's. "He's good," Sasuke thought, his excitement growing. Naruto grinned behind his mask and thought, "He's gotten better." The two leapt back slightly, prepared to fight once more as they began striking each other, but Sasuke's steel stopped them in their tracks. Naruto then went for Sasuke's midsection, but the Uchiha leapt away in time. "Hanketsu Kado," Sasuke uttered as he swung slashes at Hashi faster than the human eye could follow. Hashi felt as though numeral attacks were suddenly hitting his body. "What?" was all Naruto could think as suddenly visible slashes of wind surrounded his body, cutting him in multiple places and causing him to bleed. Hashi smirked as he dashed at Sasuke and was about to thrust his sword straight at the Uchiha, who had moved to the side and was now sending his blade straight down on him. Hashi grabbed Tamashi with his bare hand, feeling the painful sensation as the blade's edge cut through his glove and the surface of his skin before Sasuke sent Shokin to cut him in half. As he landed, Hashi swung his sword lightning fast, sending a shockwave towards Sasuke. Sasuke ducked the attack, but Shokin cut him up. Sasuke quickly parried Shokin with Tamashi and leapt back. The two glared at one another without saying anything, then charged at one another and clashed blades. Alongside Sakura after Lee, Neji, and Karashi located their fellow Konoha.nin, Sakura had had enough of waiting for Sasuke and left the villagers in the care of her friends in order to locate him. As she made her way to the cliff, Sakura sensed Sasuke's chakra, but she also sensed Hashi's and someone else. Sakura thought as she accelerated, "It seems like trouble has always found Sasuke ever since. Naruto, please keep an eye on us." With Sasuke and Naruto, Hashi like two savage animals fighting over a dead animal to claim it as their own meal. Hashi and Sasuke continued to strike their swords together in an attempt to gain the upper hand, but they were completely evenly matched. They then swung again, eventually winning a cut onto the other that resulted in a new bleeding wound. The two then jumped back and swung their blades, creating a shockwave that clashed and destroyed one another. After the two techniques cancelled each other out, Hashi ran at Sasuke and sent a barrage of stabs at Sasuke with blinding speed. Sasuke was dodging all of the stabs, but with how much wind power behind the attacks, Sasuke was getting cuts, here and there. Sasuke then sent a diagonal slash from Tamashi, parrying Shokin and making Hashi move back a bit, and then Sasuke jumped and spun in the air and sent Tamashi to parry Shokin once more, before landing behind Hashi and sending Tamashi straight at Hashi and cutting his midsection, leaving a horizontal sword wound, but Hashi managed to stab the muscle between Sasuke's shoulder and neck. The two jumped back and glared at each other, ignoring their injuries. Sasuke then went through a series of hand signs with one hand, inhaled a vast amount of air and blew fire around him, surrounding him in flame, and as quickly as the flames came, they disappeared, and so did Sasuke. Hashi tried to pay attention to the winds, but all he heard was the air cutting, making his eyes widen with shock before he started running to avoid the invisible slashes that were coming his way. "Damn, this'd be easier if I had both my eyes," Naruto thought as his lone eye narrowed. Suddenly Naruto's leg was cut, making him trip, but he caught himself with his hands and then used the momentum to bounce off his hands, intending to land on his feet, but Sasuke took advantage of the situation and sent his Hanketsu Kado to send multiple slashes to Hashi that surrounded and cut up Hashi in a field of slashes. Hashi was bleeding as he gained many wounds, but now he was getting pissed, but then he heard the cutting of the air again. Which wasn't a good thing. Hashi's lone eye became crimson red and slit, and as he roared, golden flames surrounded him and burst around him, destroying the attacks sent by Sasuke and making the Uchiha lose his footing. Suddenly Hashi, using great speed, dashed at Sasuke and was right in front of him, ready to use Shoken. Sasuke quickly parried the attack with Tamashi and attempted to jump back, but Hashi quickly sent a slash from Shoken, cutting the side of Sasuke's torso. It's said that when you clash with your opponent, you will understand him, as long as you're not some haughty, ignorant ass and actually decided to listen to every clash. For some reason, Sasuke felt that he knew Hashi before even meeting him. In fact, he felt that they had met before, a long time ago. But why does he feel this way? Sasuke glared at Hashi while holding his side. Sasuke thought, why do I feel I know you? Why do I feel I understand you and you understand myself as well? Just what are you? Who are you? Hashi Kyukaze. Kyukaze. Q. 9. Sasuke felt he was onto something, but something in his head tried to prevent him from comprehending what he felt he knew deep down. Hashi said, you're not so bad, kid. In fact, you really improved. Sasuke gave her a startled look. How did you come to know me? Sasuke insisted on answers. Hashi picked invisible dirt from his gloved finger and said, let's just say I'm friends with someone who knows you very well, and from the stories I heard, I must say I'm amazed with how far you went from there to now. Itachi? Hashi knows Itachi. Wait. Now I remember those cloaks. He works for the same people who sent Itachi and that Kisame guy to attack Naruto. Sasuke roared as purple chakra surrounded him. They must have been the ones who killed Naruto. I'll make them pay. All of them will be dead at my feet. Sasuke glared at Hashi in his now glowing red Sharingan. Purple chakra. This should be good, Naruto thought, smirking as golden chakra danced around him. The two then sprinted at each other and began slamming their swords together, continuing to do so without realizing a figure was approaching. The enigmatic stranger clenched his fist as lava surrounded his front, then threw his hand at them, causing the lava to fly directly at them. As Sasuke and Hashi continued to clash, they suddenly sensed a third party with them and the danger that came with it. They jumped far away and missed being struck by lava. A voice said, and here I thought I could kill two birds with one stone so easily. How shameful of me. Sasuke and Hashi, Naruto turned to see a tall, muscular, masked Nin wearing heavy armor. And who could you be? Sasuke said, requesting clarification. Dai introduced himself, saying, allow me to formally introduce myself. I am Dai Kuragasa, general of the armies of Otogakure. As he placed Shoken on his back and cracked his knuckles, Naruto thought, so this is the guy who made me almost take a dirt nap. Well, looks like it's time for a little payback. Hashi, Naruto said, drawing Sasuke's attention, hey, Uchiha. How about we postpone our fight until after we kick this guy's ass? As he resheathed Tamashi, Sasuke remarked, sounds good to me. Dai simply gazed at the two without concern. Dai kept staring at the two swordsman shinobis, thinking, they have no idea what they're getting into. Sasuke and Hashi ran toward Dai, intending to kill him, but as they approached him, lava erupted in front of him. Fortunately, they were able to jump away before it happened. Sasuke glared at the rising wall of lava, thinking, I hate lava. It reminds me of that day. Lava, I fucking hate lava, Naruto thought, his eyes wide with anxiety and terror. I bet you're wondering how it is possible for me to walk through lava without worry of melting. Dai remarked, I am what a few call me a god of element, my own is as you can see lava. Sasuke's eyes widened as much as Hashi's as he walked straight through the wall of lava like it was a regular waterfall. I am a man who has mastered the abilities of Yoden, lava release, so incredibly that I had earned the right to be known as the Yogen. Shin, lava god. Lava suddenly rose and covered Dai's arm with magma as he extended one of his arms straight at the two, specifically Hashi. You two are outclassed. Dai said, as magma from his arm shot towards Hashi. Naruto's mind was clouded by memories of his near-death experience, so he didn't see the magma coming straight at him. Fortunately, Sasuke tackled him down before he could be hit. What's wrong with you? Sasuke remarked. Hashi, Naruto shook his head to dispel any remaining fear and said, sorry, I just hate lava and rocks falling on me, and now I've been reintroduced to those two goddamn things again. Him too, huh? Sasuke wondered. Hashi, Naruto got up and grabbed the handle of Shoken, saying, but now I'm back to normal, and I'm going to cut his fucking head off. Dai just stood there staring at them when he felt another hostile presence behind him. Troublemaking brats, Dai thought as he turned his head slightly and saw Sakura in the air, her fist cocked back, covered in green flames, and her face displaying a look of rage as she glared at Dai's eyes. Sakura let out a war cry and thrust her fist towards Dai, but the general of Auto grabbed her wrist and was ready to send his own chakra. Enhanced punch directly to her chest cavity, killing her. Sakura. Chan. Hashi, Naruto yelled, causing Sasuke to gape at him. That sounds like. Sasuke thought in shock as he thought about his brother and best friend who had died. Naruto quickly grabbed one of his kunai and threw it directly towards the two. Once the kunai reached the two, Naruto quickly went through a series of hand signs faster than anyone could see, with the exception of Sasuke, who was still shocked by how quickly Hashi moved his hands. Hashi then abruptly vanished, appeared in front of Dai, kicked the fist with his chakra. Enhanced leg, grabbed Sakura's body, kicked themselves away from Dai, and vanished once more with a kunai landing on the ground in front of him. Jutsu no Kawarimi. Hashi put Sakura next to Sasuke before he glared directly at Dai. You switched yourself with a kunai you threw in my direction and then switched back when you grabbed the young girl. A very wise and creative move, Dai said, picking up the kunai from the floor. Sakura was about to object when she saw that Hashi was running towards Dai with an all too familiar necklace around his neck. Her eyes widened in shock and disbelief as she began to recall the things that Hashi had said previously. You guys stay here, Hashi said, grabbing the handle of Shokin, taking it off his back, and getting ready for a fight with the Auto General. He's mine. I recall seeing this girl, she captured my heart. It's an appeal for assistance, and it belongs to Akiko, Chan. I hate it when boulders fall on top of me. Sorry, I simply detest falling rocks and lava, and now I've been exposed to those two goddamn things once more. Sakura. Chan. Sakura's eyes were watering as she kept staring at Hashi. It can't be. It just can't, Sakura thought as she shed a tear and kept staring at Hashi. Suddenly, someone else leapt in and took the hit for Dai. The person who had given his life melted into white goo, but Naruto's eyes widened with shock and disbelief as he crouched down and took a handful of it into his palm as he placed Shokin back on his back. As Hashi, Naruto exclaimed in surprise, this goo, this substance, this power I feel inside of it. As he raised his leg to deliver an axe kick to Hashi, Dai said, it's a special material to make artificial humans, that's all you need to know. However, the masked swordsman grabbed Dai's leg and delivered a fist to his torso, causing the masked OTO general to skid back. Where did this come from? Hashi, Naruto demanded clarification. Dai said, shouldn't have underestimated you. Where on earth did you obtain this? Hashi, Naruto shouted, glaring gravely. Orochimaru used this material to create this project. Dai remarked, not many people know where he gets it from. Hashi, Naruto. No. Only Naruto stared at the substance in his hand as his lone eye began to water. Minato and Kushina's eyes had widened in shock at learning what had happened to their daughter, and now they were seething with rage at the knowledge of the pale-faced bastard using their daughter as a source for his own perverse experiments. Akane, so this is what happened to you, my dear sister, being used as a test tube for that bastard snake. Naruto thought, clenching his hand that still contained the goo, causing it to ooze out of his hand. Orochimaru, you monster. You tried to kill me when I was a baby, causing my parents to split and lead my mother into a deep depression. You brought harm to my son and almost got him killed, and now apparently you kidnapped my daughter and using her for your sick twisted experiment. Minato swore as his anger grew. You brought so much pain to my family. When my son confronts you again I will be there and I will kill you. I'm going to murder him. Naruto shouted as his chakra and killer intent started to rise, making Sasuke look at him with surprise. Dai glare at him. All the while, Sakura was still in a shocked daze of the sight of her long-lost love's necklace around Hashi's neck. I'll kill him for hurting you, Akane. As the chakra surrounding his body exploded, sending a shockwave that caused Dai to leap back, Naruto yelled. As Hashi continued to use his body to exert power, Dai thought, this power. It's incredible for such a young boy to have. Sasuke thought, Akane? Where have I heard that name before? Before realizing, wait, now I remember. A year ago, Konoha, a sister? Sakura and Sasuke yelled in disbelief. Yes, that's correct. Kushina, Naruto's mother, was not only pregnant with him, but a girl as well. Her name was Akane. Kakashi responded. Why are you sharing this information with us? Sasuke inquired. Because of the way Naruto's personality functions, I've always wanted to tell him that he wasn't born an only child. However, given that there was no record of a deceased body that belonged to her on the day the two were born, he probably would have tried to find her. I've been wanting to tell him for a long time, but now that he's gone, I thought it would be best for you two to know in his place because you both still carry a small part of Naruto, Kakashi explained. Sakura concluded, so what you're saying is that we're the closest for Naruto to hear the truth from you. Kakashi nodded. Naruto, Sasuke thought, if only you were still alive. Going back to the present, so she is still alive then? Does this mean that Orochimaru kidnapped her on that day? The bastard. But why is Hashi so angry about this? Does he share a relationship with Akane in any way? Sasuke thought as he kept staring at Hashi, who was gushing a lot of chakra out of his system. The young masked shinobi glared at Dai, who just stood there while lava rose from the ground, then rose again and covered both of his arms in magma. Dai then swung his arm, making the magma extend and go for Hashi, but the masked shinobi jumped back. Dai smirked as he called forth lava to shoot out from the ground and consume Hashi. No! Sakura screamed aloud when she saw the masked, scarred boy who had been engulfed by lava. Whoa! Sasuke and Sakura turned to see Hashi was okay, didn't expect to be so loved. Hashi, Naruto grinned. Suddenly, Sakura charged at Hashi, tackling him into an embrace while sobbing into his chest, shocking both Sasuke and the masked swordsman. As she held the masked shinobi, Sakura repeated, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. Naruto grinned and gave her a hug in return. I'm so happy that I didn't lose you again, Sakura said, causing Naruto's eyes to widen in surprise. There was no way for her to know, so how could she have known? Uchiha, as much as I want to take this bastard down myself, I think it would help if I got some assistance. Hashi, Naruto said, easily patting the pinkhead on the back before he parted ways with her and walked next to Sasuke, who grabbed the handle of Shokin, removed it from his back, and began twirling it in his hand. With Tamashi prepared, Sasuke said, agreed. Just stay out of my way. Loser. Sasuke's Sharingan flared. As he ran directly at Dai, Hashi, Naruto grinned and said, only if you can keep up. Sasuke's eyes widened for a moment before he ran straight towards Dai and ran beside Hashi. Sakura grinned and shed tears as she looked at Hashi's back, realizing that the masked shinobi who was about to fight with Sasuke by his side was her beloved Naruto, whom she had thought had died. At the masked blonde's instruction, Sakura started to wipe away her tears and kept smiling, thinking, I'm so happy that you're still alive, my love, my Naruto-kun. When Dai snapped his fingers, a whole battalion of artificial beings jumped out of their hiding places, some of them attacking Hashi, Naruto and Sasuke. The two swordsmen were able to push them away, but they had to jump back to Sakura because more were coming their way. Sakura felt one coming directly at her, so she summoned chakra to her fist, which was surrounded by green fire. She then turned and screamed a war cry and threw a fist at the enemy, but it didn't stop there. The power behind her fist was so great that it sent a shockwave of power, and as the victim was flying, a trail and tunnel of green fire followed it, destroying and melting other artificial beings it encountered. Sasuke grinned at Sakura's ability, and Naruto's eyes widened with shock, amazement, and a little fear. Sasuke thought, I'm proud of you, Sakura, you've really gotten powerful since it happened. Naruto thought fearfully, damn. She's so powerful, never again will I get on Sakura-chan's bad side, and yet, that's so hot. Kurama remarked, definitely your father's son all right. Naruto shouted, S. Shut up, through his mind link, causing Kurama, Kushina, and Mamoru, who was connected to the mind link and could hear the conversation even though he wasn't with Naruto, to burst out laughing, while Minato and Naruto flushed red with shame. The three genin assumed their fighting stances, keeping their backs to each other, prepared to battle. With a cruel smile, Hashi, Naruto remarked, 3 against, well, a lot, I like it. With a stoic expression, Sasuke said, Baka, this isn't a source for pleasure. Well, at least not just for you. On the inside, he was grinning with intense excitement. Sakura sounded irritated but continued to smile, saying, geez, would the two of you calm down? This is no time to see who's better, so stop acting like a bunch of macho men. Sasuke had no idea why the two people covering his back were grinning, but Sakura and Naruto knew. Team 7's genin were engaged in combat once more. All 3 of the artificial warriors suddenly charged at them. Come on! The genin yelled as they all went to battle, and Sakura began battering every foe she encountered with strong kicks and burning fists. By the time Team 7 was disbanded, Sakura had pushed herself to the point where even Tsunade was impressed. She always had 2 elements, water and earth, and she used the latter in a way that shocked both Shizune and Tsunade. She had trained hard to control the earth around her and had developed a set of moves that not even Tsunade could use. Good night. Sakura yelled as she leapt high into the air above a large number of enemies, slammed her fist down to the ground, and sent a shockwave of her chakra deep into the earth. The pinkhead grinned as the earth crumbled around her and sharp pieces of earth shot out and killed the surrounding enemies. Sakura then surrounded her body with chakra and began spinning in place with such speed that she became a tornado that consumed the earth and surrounding enemies and killed them. After a few more seconds, Sakura stopped spinning, releasing her jutsu and letting all of the earth, goo, and artificial body parts fall to the ground. While he was still staring at the pinkhead, Naruto blocked an attack, sliced an enemy behind him in half, and then sliced the one in front of him in half. Whoa, now that's a woman, Datbeo. Oh, my Sochi has fallen in love. I'm overjoyed. While Minato laughed and scratched the back of his head with a drop of perspiration, Kushina cheered inside Naruto's head and shed happy tears. Sasuke sent wave after wave of blinding cuts at his opponents, skewering them all and leaving them all in heaping messes of goo. He then began to dash with incredible speed and agility, mowing down everyone in his path. He then focused his power on Tamashi until it burst into royal blue flame. Finally, he sent a sideways slash towards a large group of enemies, sending a giant slash of blue fire towards them, eradicating and melding them all. And he was only getting warmed up. Naruto was astounded by how strong the two had become, which made him grin, but he remained focused on the battle. He simply mowed down every opponent that stood in his way, cutting them up and down to size with shoken and chops from his hands that had wind manipulation behind them, blowing out their artificial brains with explosive kunai that hit right on their mark, and smashing right through their bodies with his fists that had wind manipulation behind them. Naruto was an incredible fighter, and he would be killing these guys more quickly if he could use his jutsu, but that would reveal that he was still alive. These three will become a real nuisance in the future, Dai thought as he observed them all with curiosity. They were all still in their early adolescent years and were exhibiting impressive power. In order to send a powerful and lightning, fast shockwave of golden flame directly at Dai, Hashi, Naruto sent his own chakra mixed with Kurama's into Shoken and used Doraibu. The destructive flame consumed everything in its path, including enemies, trees, and the earth itself. Dai somehow escaped the attack, but he was very impressed by the strength of the jutsu and the one-eyed masked shinobi was not displaying any signs of exhaustion. This one's interesting, he would be a very worthy addition to Oto, but it's obvious by the look in his eye that he would never do such a thing. Dai thought as he stared at the masked boy with his hands turning into magma. Hashi was able to get past the line of enemies and run at Dai, but the general was ready as a stream of lava, shaped like an eel, shot out of the ground and through Hashi's body before the masked shinobi vanished. Kage Bushin. Dai thought as he turned and used his magma arm to block a slash from Hashi. Naruto. The two glared into each other's eyes before Hashi had to jump back to avoid being hit by Dai's free magma, an impressive sword. Hashi, Naruto was able to leap out of the way, but he had to start dodging, rolling, and fleeing from the remaining flying magma fists Dai was hurling at him. Dai thrust his magma fist forward, sending a flying magma fist that separated from his arm flying straight at him. This bastard, thought Naruto angrily, knock it off. Hashi, Naruto yelled as he readied Shoken like a bat and swung at one of the magma fists and hit it dead on making it explode on contact and eradicating it. Dai did show it, but he was surprised to see Hashi's sword smash through his magma like it was nothing. Dai had enough, so he decided to end this battle by jumping high into the air and then rocket down with his magma fist facing down to the ground and getting bigger. Oh shit, Naruto said as he ran back to regroup with the others. Not good. We must relocate. The Uchiha looked up to see Dai soaring to the ground after Hashi. Naruto yelled something that caught Sasuke's attention. Sasuke thought, that can't be good. Naruto made it to Sakura, but as he turned around, Dai smashed his giant magma fist into the ground, creating giant waves of lava around the area. He sent a great deal of his chakra and Kurama's into Shoken, then sent slashes towards the ground, creating ruts that would be used to keep the lava away from them. Sasuke appeared on the other side and did what Hashi did, making a rut into the ground just in case, and then summoned a large amount of lava and magma into his arms, causing it to shoot out of his magma-covered hands. As the lava was being sent into the sky, it took the shape of a dragon made of pure lava, and the three were uneasy as the lava dragon eyed them with its boiling eyes. Yogan Ryu. Lava Dragon. Dai uttered the name of his technique as his hand was raised into the air. Kurosu. Kill. Dai commanded as his hand descended, causing the lava dragon to rush towards the three young shinobi. Naruto looked up at the dragon with fear for his friends' lives. He had no choice but to summon the full power of his Mokuton and Kurama. As the blonde was ready to give his all to save his friends, Sasuke ran in front of him and Sakura, closing his eyes and focusing. Before he opened his eyes, Sasuke chanted in his mind, with all my strength, I beg the heavens to grant me the strength to summon the most powerful warrior of all time to protect myself and my comrades, and to banish all opposing elements into the rotting ground and hell itself. I call upon the great warrior who defeated the god Orochi, Susanoo. As his body began to produce purple flames that consumed him, Naruto, and Sakura, Sasuke yelled in pain as he felt the awesome overwhelming power that was granted to him by the legendary sword of his clan. Suddenly, a gigantic humanoid skeletal being made of purple chakra with a pair of horns on its head surrounded the three teenagers. The creature then grew a shield on its arm and placed it in front of itself to protect itself, and the dragon suddenly made contact and began striking the being with its entire molten body. What seemed like hours as the jutsu began to fade as the shield began to leak blood from one of Sasuke's eyes, and after the dragon vanished. Sasuke. Sakura sensed that Sasuke's heart was beating too quickly, but she was able to slow it down to a normal pace. Dai took the risk and encircled his body in lava, creating a massive bubbling amount of lava. Sakura shouted the name of her raven-haired friend, teammate as she hurried to his side and offered assistance. Die now. Sasuke gritted his teeth in rage as royal blue flames danced around him and into Tamashi, while Naruto gritted his teeth as golden flames danced around his body before entering Shokin. Dai yelled as the mountain of lava began to shoot toward the three. Doraibu. Habana ao Jigoku, Blue Hell Spark. As the jutsus connected, they countered each other out. While Sasuke and Naruto's attacks alone would have likely done nothing, their combined energy produced enough energy to destroy Dai's technique, and he jumped back onto his hands and feet as Sakura glared at him. The two yelled as they sent waves of fire from their swords and directly at the giant mountain of lava. Dai remarked, "Impressive. You stunned me for a bit. It's not easy to do such a thing. However, if that's all you've got." Dai stood up, surrounded by lava, the light of which danced off his body. "Then I'm afraid your hopes for winning this battle were all for naught. Good God. He looks like nothing happened to him." Sakura thought to herself as Hashi, Naruto and Sasuke prepared to fight once more in the Kenjutsu stance. Sakura looked at the two with shocked eyes before adopting a determined expression. Right, if they can stand up when the odds are against them, Sakura thought as she stood up and assumed her fighting stance. Then I will too, Sakura thought with a serious expression on her face. Dai just stared at the three for a brief moment before approaching them, but something stopped him. Dai Ippon. Sama. Fearing what Dai might do next, an Auto.Nin yelled as he and a few others arrived. "Forgive our intrusion, but headquarters called and they said they needed you back ASAP." Dai closed his eyes, then opened them again and nodded. Dai raised his hand in a ram sign and yelled, "Kai, you three kids are lucky that I am needed somewhere else, but we'll definitely get together again to finish what we started in the meantime. A life lesson. If you cannot win a fight, make sure your opponent doesn't either." Dai said as he began to leave. Suddenly, the entire village began to explode. Hashi, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura quickly turned around and saw that all the houses, buildings, and even the entire village were exploding. You monster, you monster. If you could," Sakura yelled, "get back here you coward." At Dai's retreating form. "I want to kill you, so come back here." Sakura let out a cry as she prepared to follow him, but Hashi, Naruto stopped her. "Don't you dare run away from me. Return here and engage in combat. Return here." Sakura continued to scream as Dai continued to walk away. "Let me go, currently, Enough Sakura. I understand how you feel. I've witnessed terrible things for what seems like ages, things that no one our age should see, but we must endure horrible actions. It is why we were given this," Naruto said, placing his finger on top of Sakura's Hitai.8. "Once we were there, we endured everything that came our way, not for ourselves, but for others that we want to keep protected from these horrors, as much as you, Sasuke. And I wish to end this monster for what he did to these innocent people, but we must endure and think like the shinobi we are. Don't let such horrors change you, Sakura. Don't let them in all at once or else you will be doomed to doubt yourself. Don't end up like me. Don't think I'll forget this, you bastard." Sakura thought as she gritted her teeth and closed her eyes, then opened them quickly to glare at Dai's retreating four. Naruto.kun. You've grown up and you've changed. Arigato, for looking out for me. Sakura screamed at Dai. "I swear that I will kill you for all the horrible things you have ever done when the time comes." Sakura's green aura danced around her body as she yelled. Naruto and his parents were shocked and in awe as they thought, "Wow, she's creating her chakra without even realizing it. The more I watch this girl in action, the more I like her." In Naruto's imagination, Kushina grinned, pumped her fist in the air, and put her hand on her bicep. Dai kept walking away, saying, "I'll see it when I believe it." Naruto, Hashi smirked beneath his mask and said, "You really should take her seriously. I mean, it's not every day that you meet a girl who can generate a great amount of chakra subconsciously. Dai froze in place upon hearing the masked shinobi's words. Is everything okay, Ippon? Sama? One of the Auto.nin inquired, fearing what Dai might do. Dai was intrigued when he turned his head slightly and noticed Sakura's chakra encircling her body while she glared at him. Turning his head forward once more, Dai said, Then I hope to see you again someday, all of you. Konoha's Team 7 is just full of surprises. Dai smirked beneath his mask, and while Sasuke looked perplexed, Naruto and Sakura's eyes widened. Sorry about what happened all that long ago, but admit it, it was a blessing in disguise. The repercussions of the events have made you a powerful child. You've gained more self-confidence than before, you're stronger than you've ever been, and you're on par with, possibly even better than, your longtime rival. You've transformed from the worthless child who called yourself a shinobi into a true warrior. I don't understand. Just a moment ago he acted like Sakura wasn't even worth his time and now he's saying he's impressed with her. Sasuke thought in disbelief. But Sakura and Naruto knew exactly who he was referring to. He was talking about Naruto. Somehow Dai knows that he's still alive, Dai said as he began to leave with his subordinates trailing behind. Child, we'll cross paths again. It is inevitable because time itself is a clock that never stops ticking. With those last words, Dai and his subordinates disappeared into the darkness, and Naruto kept glaring at the location of Dai's body before it was engulfed by the darkness. Kami always has a plan for us chess pieces, and his plan for us will come sooner than we expect, he said. As he continued to glare, Naruto thought, yeah, we will meet again. I guarantee it, Dadbeo. Suddenly, he felt a hand grab his necklace, which his grandmother had given him more than a year ago. When he looked, he saw Sakura grinning at him with tender eyes. You still have it, Naruto-kun? Sakura gave him a warm smile and whispered to him. Naruto blinked his one eye in surprise, looking dumbfounded beneath his mask. He then closed it and scratched the back of his head, laughing in embarrassment. Feeling foolish, Naruto thought, all right, I see how she figured it out. Excellent work, kid, Kurama said, somewhat disappointed in his host, just when I thought you were actually a very capable assassin. Kurama, stop talking. Kushina, who was extremely proud of her son for capturing the heart of this young girl, remarked, my Sochi is having a moment with his future wife. Minato said, actually I have to agree with Kurama. Even though I understand the importance of the necklace to Naruto, hell even I would keep it with me all the time, but Naruto could have just put a seal on his collarbone or his chest to keep the necklace inside so. However, Kushina's terrifying anime style glare turned Minato completely white with fear, and it didn't help that her hair was doing that standing up nine-tailed. On second thought, I absolutely agree with you Kushina-chan. A moment for our young boy with the girl of his dreams is much more important than pointing out a mistake he made as a shinobi. With a smirk, Kurama said, whipped. Minato whispered to the all-powerful fox spirit, I died once. I am not going through that again. Naruto simply grinned at Sakura in the blonde boy's mind. As Sakura was about to open her mouth, Naruto put his finger to her lips and whispered, I know what you're going to say, but I can't come back, and before you flip your lid, just hear me out. Sakura just stared at him with a serious expression that said, you better explain quick, cause I haven't seen you in over a year and I am not liking what you said to me in the slightest bit. There is a force inside the walls of Konoha that will tear us apart forever if I come back before I am ready. Sakura looked at him in shock. I apologize, but please keep my status as living a secret. Naruto whispered to her, and Sakura looked down at his chest with a sad expression on her face as she began to cry. He was still alive, and she thought she had him back, but in reality, he was still far away, and they were only permitted to be together for this one moment. But I promise that I will return and then, Naruto took her hand and locked his fingers with her own, saying, and you know me in promises. Sakura grinned at him with a sad yet joyful smile, compassion and love in her eyes as they continued to cry. The tip of Tamashi suddenly appeared next to Naruto's head. Let her go, Sasuke said in a menacing tone while glaring at Hashi. Naruto merely gave him a single glance before obeying his orders and letting go of Sakura, who walked beside him and stared at him as though he had gone insane. What are you doing, Sasuke? Sakura thought Sasuke had lost his mind once more when he threw a Konoha Hitai.8 at her, which she grabbed. He helped us, she said. This was discovered at one of the auto bases that was on fire. Sakura stared at the headband in disbelief before turning to face Naruto. Hashi and his friends framed us and the rest of Konoha for what they did to Auto, Sasuke said, keeping Hashi at blade point and glaring at him. It was the most sensible course of action. When Hashi, Naruto explained, Sasuke's eyes widened before he glared at Hashi with his Sharingan blazing red. My group is supposed to be unknown to the world and your village is already at war with Otto. Their leader tried to assassinate the Yondaime Hokage when he was a newborn. They invaded your home leading to the death of your Sandaime Hokage, and they were the reason that your teammate died. It would be best for you to stop lying. With the tip of Tamashi aimed at Hashi's neck, Sasuke said, causing the masked shinobi to retreat a little. He's not. Sakura put her hand on Sasuke's shoulder and blurted out, Sasuke, General Dai led to the volcano erupting. He placed explosive tags everywhere inside. It's all his fault. Once more, Sasuke's expression was one of shock before he gritted his teeth in rage and tightly closed his eyes. He's dead. Once I'm done with you, he's next, Sasuke yelled, opening his eyes again with a fiery red Sharingan. Just before he could slash at Hashi, Sasuke yelled. No, Sasuke. Sakura yelled, haven't we all been through enough today? As she swiftly restrained Sasuke with her increased strength. Sakura tried to reason with her raven-haired teammate, but Sasuke just stared at her in shock. Everyone is safe. Otto is gone. And all her comrades are waiting for us outside the what used to be the village. Please, no more violence, it wouldn't even matter in the end. After a few moments, Sasuke put Tamashi back in its scabbard. Sasuke said, I will listen to her, but the day our paths cross again, Hashi, you won't be so lucky. Hashi, Naruto exhaled a breath of relief he didn't even realize he was suppressing, then turned to face the two with a smile and joyful cerulean eyes. As he began to walk backward toward the edge of the cliff, Hashi, Naruto grinned beneath his mask and said, we'll be looking forward to that day. Then we could finish what we started. This was fun, we got to do it again sometime, but until then. Hashi, Naruto grinned as he stopped at the edge of the cliff. Yane. The masked assassin said as he leapt off the cliff and fell straight down towards the ground. Sakura hurried to the edge and saw Naruto was still falling. Sakura was worried and afraid, and she kept thinking, please don't die, please don't die. Naruto closed his lone eye and shed a tear, thinking, you know Sakura-chan. I'm happy you know that I'm alive. Because now I know you'll sleep at night without shedding a single tear of sadness over me. He then performed some flips to create wind, used his wind manipulation to stop him a foot off the ground before gently landing on it, built up wind to his feet, and began running as fast as the wind towards the exit of what had once been the Tsukihara village. Yes. Sakura thought to herself as she watched the love of her life sprint toward his new allies. Until the next time. My Shugo Tenshi, Sakura thought, holding a hand to her heart and gazing lovingly at Naruto's retreating form. Naruto grinned as he sent chakra to his lone eye to improve his vision so he could see Sakura's happy face. You know, now that I look at her through your eyes, well right now, she not only is like your mother in personality, but she also kinda looks like her, only she has pink hair. Minato said to his son in his head. Through his mental link, Naruto told his father, Mom is beautiful just like Sakura-chan. Hell, their beauty is actually equal to me, but please never mention them looking alike to me, ever again. I'm proud of you, my boy, I'm sorry, but all I'm saying is that you picked a looker. Minato grinned and gave a thumbs up. Okay, now I see that you're that perverted sage's son, Kurama replied. Through his thoughts, Naruto remarked, it's funny, I was about to say the same thing. According to Kushina, ditto. Mamoru replied, yep, via his mental connection to them. Minato simply had a look of embarrassment at this point, but she was still smiling. Well, what can I say? I am the son of my father, Minato remarked, shrugging his shoulders. Sakura felt Sasuke put a hand on her shoulder as she watched her love fade away. After receiving a nod from his pink-haired teammate, Uchiha said, let's go. The two then abruptly disappeared. Karashi, the villagers, and Team Guy, everyone was horrified by what had happened as they gazed at the devastation. Tenten was saying, Dear Kami. With concern, Lee stated, Sasuke-san and Sakura-san are still within the village. Neji surprised his two teammates by saying, I'm sure they're fine. The two have become more than capable of handling something like this. But Neji, they could. Neji shocked the two by saying, I believe in them. You should believe in our friends as well, Tenten. Neji is correct. We have to have faith in our friends. Lee shouted with renewed energy, and then Sasuke and Sakura suddenly materialized, causing Lee and Tenten to jump a little. Neji said, see, they're all right. Was there any uncertainty? Sasuke remarked. Neji grinned at Sasuke and said, not from me, Uchiha, if you can believe that. Sasuke grinned back and said, you know what, I actually do. Sakura nodded when Tenten whispered to her, never thought those two would ever be chummy. Sakura walked next to Akiko and put her hand on her shoulder in an attempt to console the orange-haired girl after Akiko said, "The statue." This attracted the attention of the Konoha shinobis. Sakura sincerely apologized to Akiko and her fellow villagers, saying, "Akiko, I am so sorry." Again, Akiko said, "The statue. Why does the statue worry her so much?" Lee inquired. "You'll see." Sasuke remarked as the thunder struck, causing Karashi to jump a little, and rain began to fall from the sky. After a while, the fires had been put out, leaving only black smoke in their wake. Akiko's eyes began to well up with tears that mixed with the rain as she began to look at the destroyed village that she had once called home, but as the smoke subsided, Akiko's eyes widened and she smiled with joy as she and the villagers saw that the statue of her love and future was still standing. Suddenly the villagers cheered with delight that it's their hope. Neji grinned at Sasuke and said, "Fitting. You must be very happy that they're praising your brother with joy and admiration." "Very happy," Sasuke said as he began to shed tears that mixed with the rain, and Neji was the only one who saw them. Tears are a sign that shows people the truth of others. Neji had long hated Sasuke, probably because he reminded him of himself, but after witnessing him help Hinata become stronger and seeing these tears, he realized that Sasuke had changed and escaped that terrible path he was on and was now a trustworthy man. After all, he was willing to cry in front of people he called his friends, even if it was in the rain. Neji smiled and thought, "Now there is no doubt in my mind, I am glad you decided to become a part of Hinata-sama's life, Sasuke." Sakura grinned at the fact that everyone was pleased to see her love's statue still standing, and she was too. As she placed her hand over her heart once more, Sakura thought, "I hope you can see this Naruto-kun. Everyone here loves you. As do I, my Shugo Tenshi." Little did they know that Naruto was watching them from a tree, a broad smile on his bare face. As he closed his one eye and disappeared, Naruto grinned and thought, "This was all worth losing my left eye." Renmara, Idate, and the other members of Akatsuki. After observing the flames of what had once been Tsukihara, the rain struck and fell to the ground, putting out the fires and leaving the village in ruins, but the Naruto statue remained. Group 7 managed to stay a good distance away from the village just in time to witness the fireworks. Zabuza grinned and remarked, "Hey, not only does the thing look like the Gaki, but it's even hard to get rid of like the little blonde baka." "Renmara, are you okay in there?" When she and Renmara had left the village, Haku asked the young boy with the lavender hair underneath her cloak. She then made an Isu Bushin, ice clone, a jutsu she had worked so hard to master, and she gave Renmara to her clone. After removing her cloak, she had the clone place Renmara on her back, wrap the cloak around him, and then wrap it around her body before letting the clone go. With his head peeking out of the hole in her cloak at her neck, Renmara replied, "Yes, I'm quite all right." Zabuza couldn't help but smile as he observed the two. Zabuza thought, "I'm really proud of you, Haku. It looks like you have someone who now depends on you and needs you. I'm glad. The kid's lucky too, he doesn't have to rely and look up to a complete nutcase, but a good-hearted young woman." Renmara's eyes glowed red, and he said, "He's coming." Suddenly, Naruto materialized. Zabuza grinned and remarked, "Kid spotted you before you even got here." Naruto grinned and remarked, "Thanks for the update, Zabuza, but I have ears, remember." According to Zabuza, smartass. "Anyway, where were you?" Karen inquired. Then, with a single-eyed grin, Naruto said, "Just had to see something to believe it." His cloak was wrapped around his body as the golden flames vanished, and he picked up Mamoru before turning to face everyone and saying, "Let's go home." The following day, while Team Guy and Karashi waited near the Naruto statue, Sakura and Sasuke conversed with Akiko. "Are you certain you'll be fine on your own?" Sakura questioned her companion. "Yes, we will be fine. It may have been our home that was destroyed, but it can be rebuilt." Akiko turned to face the golden statue of Sakura and Sasuke and remarked, "That on the other hand, is irreplaceable." Sakura grinned broadly as she looked at the statue and said, "Yeah." Sasuke grinned and said, "Well, of course it is. It is him after all. Well, that and it's made of gold." Sakura and Akiko found Sasuke's little joke amusing. Sakura smiled and slugged Sasuke's arm in a playful manner, saying, "Baka." "Ah." Sasuke grinned and rubbed his arm from the pain, saying, "Damn, let up a little would ya?" Tenten and Lee stared at Sasuke in disbelief, while Neji raised an eyebrow. "Did Sasuke make a joke?" Tenten let out a startled cry. Lee acknowledged, "I didn't even think it was possible." "Yeah, definitely a new person. It's kind of creepy though, I'll admit," Neji said, grinning and closing his eyes. "So since, well, you know, Sakura wasn't sure if she should bring up the subject of who would succeed her as village chief because doing so would likely cause Akiko to weep over the loss of her father. I've discussed it with my sibling and we've agreed that my elder sister Aiko will take over as chief, since Akihiko is, well, a bit of a coward. Akiko continued with a grin. You gave the documents to your sister, correct? Sakura inquired. Yes, and she accepts providing assistance for your trade routes in exchange with protection and sending shinobi to teach our villagers the way of shinobi. After we rebuild the village, of course. Akiko replied while both of them nodded. How about you? Why didn't you attempt to claim the title? Sasuke inquired. Sasuke. Sakura slapped the Uchiha's arm and yelled his name. What? Sasuke shot back, I didn't mean to make her sound hungry or anything, I was just curious. Akiko continued to smile and said, I have a little plan for the future and being chief might complicate it. Well, if that's all then we better head out. Sasuke replied. It was good seeing you again, Akiko. After Sasuke returned the small bow, Akiko said, and to you Sasuke-kun. Sakura remained with Akiko as Sasuke went towards Team Guy. I'm glad you're doing well, Akiko, but are you certain you don't require assistance? Sakura inquired. Sakura, I am grateful that you are my friend and you wish to assist in the reconstruction of the village, but you have helped us enough as it is, and for that I thank you. Akiko bowed to her companion. Oh, please stop that. Oh, and one more thing. Sakura whispered, I'm okay with you have deep feeling for Naruto, but he will be mine. Sakura said with a determined look on her face. Akiko was shocked to hear that Sakura knew Naruto was alive, but she smiled, happy that her friend knew the truth. The pinkette suddenly hugged Akiko, surprising her. We're friends, and friends don't bow to each other when they're saying goodbye, Sakura said. Then, with a determined expression on her face and a fist pumped up to her face, Akiko said, well then, as they say. Sakura smiled and pumped her fist up as well, and the two exchanged a final hug before parting ways. Game on. Sakura waved Akiko off as she left, saying, good luck Akiko, we'll come visit. As she waved goodbye to her friend, Akiko said, same to you Sakura, I hope to visit your village someday. As she watched Sasuke, Sakura, Team Guy, and Karashi leave the village, Akiko couldn't help but smile at a small detail that Sakura had kept to herself. You may hold Naruto. Kun's heart Sakura.san. But Naruto.kun promised me that he would marry me someday, and you know him and promises. Akiko began to laugh, blushed. The next day at the Akatsuki base at last, Naruto and his group returned to the base where Itachi, Obito, Yahiko, and Rin were. Itachi. I didn't think you would be here. What is going on? Naruto, who was wearing his demon mask to avoid frightening Rin with the whole, now becoming a cyclops, thing, said this to the elder Uchiha. He was right to do so, as she was present. I heard that you had met with my brother and clashed swords with him, Itachi replied. Oh, I understand. Would you like to hear how talented your brother is? Itachi nodded in response to Naruto's statement, and he simply grinned and laughed a little. He's become incredibly strong. Naruto grinned and said, he's really grown up to be one hell of a shinobi and swordsman. He now wields the legendary Tamashi and can use Amaterasu and Susanoo with it. Obito and Itachi were more shocked than the other four. Obito thought, so Sasuke has become the second wielder of the legendary blade Tamashi. And here I thought that sword was a fairy tale for little kids in our clan. Oh, and good news. He's no longer on that long-term, vengeful path. Naruto grinned and said, I mean, he still wants to kill you, but he's a devoted shinobi. I know you'd be proud of him Itachi. I'm proud of you, my Otuto, Itachi thought, focusing on not crying in public because he had a reputation to maintain. Sasuke, you have grown so strong and you are becoming what I'd hope you'd become. An heir to the Uchiha with a true hero's heart. Itachi glanced down at the floor with a slight smile. Naruto grabbed 2 scrolls and opened them onto the ground before breaking the seal on them, saying, either way, everything went according to plan and we got some bonuses through it all as well. On top of the scrolls were the twin blades of Kiba and the fabled Raijin no Ken. Well, I'll be damned. Yahiko replied, so you encountered Aoi and Raiga. That is correct, and I wish to ask permission. Have you added any new members? Naruto nodded as Yahiko grinned and said, well, they're welcomed here. Naruto introduced the brunette boy, saying, great, this is Idate, I wish to help him get stronger and become a great shinobi. Idate quickly bowed and said, it's nice to meet you. Idate blushed as Rin put her hand on his shoulder and said, you don't need to act so frightened. The young boy looked up at her happy face. We are all friends here, and we will treat you with as much kindness as I'm sure you'll treat us with. Ide thought as he got to his feet, she acts so heavenly. Naruto grinned proudly and said, oh, and the other is a dujutsu user. I don't know what it's really called, but I like to call his unique dujutsu, Mokugan. Beyond Haku approached the two, moved her cloak slightly, and disappointed Renmara, who was a little nervous to meet the Akatsuki members in front of him. Haku introduced the boy, saying, this is Renmara. You mean Renmara? I believe a friend of ours told me about you previously. Yahiko grinned at the boy and said, your dujutsu and timing with your sight could help us a great deal in the Akatsuki. Renmara nodded to her, fully trusting Haku, who turned to the four and bowed courteously to them. You don't have to be afraid, they're our friends. Haku said, grinning down at the boy. Thank you, and it's nice to meet the people who have helped Haku, Renmara replied. In the hopes that they would agree, Haku said, if it is all right with you, I wish to look after him. Yahiko replied, well, seeing as he trusts you the most, then sure. Haku grinned and raised the boy into her arms, putting his arms around her neck. Arigato. Haku grinned at Renmara, and the young boy with the lavender hair grinned back. Why do you still wear your mask, Naruto-kun? Rin inquired. Huh? Oh, because I like how it feels, Naruto said, hoping she would agree, but Rin gave him a serious look. Naruto replied, because it looks cool. With a serious expression, Rin closed her eyes and said, I'm this close to getting the frying pan. All right, no need to get violent, Naruto said. Obito, you might want to get on the other side of Yahiko. Obito raised an eyebrow at this, but obeyed. Naruto had to have a reason for wanting him to go on the other side of their leader's side. Naruto gulped as he undid his ribbons and then removed his mask, causing Rin to gasp and the other four to look shocked when they saw that Naruto's left eye had been stabbed and scratched. Yeah, so, I'm a Cyclops. Rin shook for a moment before she turned and glared at her fiancé. All of this is your failure, Obito. Rin was about to rip her fiancé apart when she screamed. M.me ? What was it I did? Obito hid behind Yahiko and cried out in terror. Hey, don't involve me in your personal matters. Fearing an ass whooping from Rin, Yahiko yelled. And what role do you play? Obito remarked. I am being used as a human shield by you. Naturally, I'm involved because of the role you assigned me. Yahiko yelled with an angry, anime-style expression on his face. Rin attempted to get past Yahiko in order to reach Obito, but he was being used as a pretty good human shield. Rin grabbed the leader by the collar, slapped his face, threw him aside, and prepared to punch Obito. Hold on, I'm able to resolve this. Rin halted her attack and gave Obito a suspicious look as Obito yelled, cowering in fear of his future wife. How will you resolve this? You better have a good solution or else, Rin asked with a menacing glare. Rin looked at her terrified future husband for a moment before crossing her arms. Well, I have a pair of Sharingan that I keep in the lab for safekeeping and I think this is the perfect opportunity to bring them out, Obito said. Rin responded, all right then. You mean that I will receive Sharingan? Naruto questioned incredulously. Our best assassin cannot go on missions as a Cyclops, can they? Obito smirked at Naruto, who blinked a few times in shock before grinning with delight. Yada! Naruto cheered, eager to obtain a pair of Sharingan. The following day in Konoha, with Lee giving Karashi some advice and training regimens to help him get stronger, Sasuke, Sakura, and Team Guy had finally returned home after dropping him off. We're home at last, Tenten gave a cheer. We still need to give in our mission report, Neji replied. Whatever, as long as we get to rest afterwards. That mission was a pain, Tenten was grumbling. Kami gave her strength as the five of them walked all the way to the Hokage Tower and began climbing the stairs. Sakura was a little anxious to see her mentor because she had just found out that not only was Naruto alive, but also his twin sister Akane, and that she was in the hands of her former teammate Orochimaru, who was also a jerk. After reaching the top floor, the five genin headed for Tsunade's office, where they encountered Shizune carrying a stack of papers. Hey, you five, have you returned at last? Shizune grinned as she spoke. Tenten complained, yeah, but it was so exhausting. I felt it was a wonderful experience for a young person. Lee yelled with a lot of youth. Tenten remarked, you think that with every mission, Lee? Yes. Every mission I take on is so amazing and youthful that it makes me feel stronger. Shizune chuckled at Lee's typically ready and vivacious demeanor. This child was unquestionably a miniature guy. Lee yelled with such vigor that Tenten sighed at his antics and Neji simply dismissed it as Lee being Lee. Tsunade. Shisho is in, right? Sakura inquired. Shizune sighed dreamily and said, yeah, she's just talking to Jiraiya and Kakashi. I'm so happy for Tsunade. Sama. She's finally finding happiness with the man she loves. Sakura whispered to Sasuke, she's not the only one around her who's finding happiness. What was that? Shizune raised an eyebrow in question. With an innocent smile that made Shizune's entire face flush, Sakura said, nothing Shizune. Nay. Chan. We better go. She then began pushing Sasuke farther down the hall, saying, oh and Shizune, you might want to do a better job at hiding Kaka Sensei's hickey marks. Shizune quickly turned around and lowered her head to her shoulders in order to conceal the hickey marks created by a certain copycat ninja. As she hurried down the hall, Shizune said, see y'all later. Neji's eyes simply widened in shock, while Tenten and Lee had amusing anime-style shocked expressions on their faces. Kakashi and Shizune. Tenten cried out in shock at what she had just heard. Neji continued to move forward, saying, I still think Sasuke making a joke was freakier. Sakura replied, same here. With a sardonic, irritated, and lifeless expression, Sasuke remarked, well that sure helped my self-esteem. When the group finally arrived at the Hokage's door, Sakura inhaled deeply before trying to knock, but Sasuke was too quick for her. That was what I wanted to do. Sakura glared at Sasuke, who was grinning, and said in a harsh, irritated whisper. From the other side of the door, Tsunade said, enter. As the five entered the office, they saw Tsunade at her desk, Kakashi and Guy across the room, and Jiraiya leaning on the windowsill. With a soldier's voice, Sasuke said, Team 7 and Team Guy giving our report on our mission, Hokage, Sama. Tsunade nodded and said, go ahead. Before we arrived at Tsukihara village Are you really dating Shizune, Kakashi, sensei? With great vigor, Lee asked. Hey Lee. As she struck him upside the head, Tenten yelled the bowl-cut-haired man's name. He blinked in surprise, and Guy stared at him in disbelief. Kakashi and Shizune had a covert relationship that began immediately after Naruto's funeral when Kakashi offered to walk her home. She invited him in, and he accepted, in case she needed comfort, and because of Kakashi, he gave Shizune much needed comfort. Let's just say that night was nice for Kakashi. Jiraiya replied, yeah it's true. How are you aware of that? With a menacing glare, Kakashi inquired. Jiraiya grinned and giggled perversely, saying, I have my ways. Unfortunately, this caused Tsunade to punch her lover directly into the wall. How did you come to know Lee? The young green-clad shinobi was frightened by Kakashi's calm question, which was accompanied by a bit of ki. Sakura-san said something about you giving Shizune hickeys when we crossed paths with her to get to here, Lee acknowledged. And where did Sakura tell you this? Kakashi asked, still projecting a fearsome aura, and Sakura simply gestured to Tsunade, causing Kakashi to widen his eyes and gaze at the woman, who merely grinned at him. But you better not get her pregnant, Tsunade said with a smile and a pair of eye smiles, at least not yet anyway. She then gave the masked Junin a serious and menacing look. She's like a daughter to me. I got to always look after her. Sweat trickled down Kakashi's brow as he thought, note to self. Be even more wary of Tsunade. Sama. My rival, congratulations. Guy shouted with a huge grin as he slammed his hand roughly on Kakashi's back and then wrapped his arm around his shoulder like he was his brother. I wish you and Shizune much luck. I can already envision your future together. You two will live contentedly and have a lovely, intelligent child who will grow up and attend the academy, where they will meet my own future child and become lifelong rivals like us. And it won't end there. Those two will become lifelong rivals once they have their own, and so on, for every generation. Guy exclaimed, it's so beautiful I could cry, with stars in his tearful eyes. Kakashi, on the other hand, had a terrified and anxious expression in his one eye as he imagined the suffering his child would endure, just as the offspring of Guy's genes would. With fear and anxiety, Kakashi thought, oh God, my poor descendants. The Hitaki curse has now started. Tsunade said, you may continue your report, Sasuke. Tenten gave Lee an irritated look and said, before you were rudely interrupted. The boy with the bowl-cut hair hung his head in shame. We had come across a group of cloaked shinobi who were also on their way to Tsukihara before we reached our destination. When we got there, we discovered that Otto had taken control of the area. We were able to rid the village of Otto with the help of the cloaked shinobi, but regrettably, explosives planted by a dangerous Otto shinobi who had attained the rank of general named Dai destroyed the entire village, Sasuke explained. Dai? Sukoto Dai? Jiraiya said, startled and alarmed. Dai Sukoto means great blood. Pretty $hashing awesome if I do say so myself. Admittedly, the name sounds like it comes from royalty. Aw fuck it, I'm thinking too much. Are you familiar with him? Kakashi inquired. With a serious expression and concern in her eyes, Tsunade stated, we both do. Dai is a very dangerous shinobi who has an absolutely amazing talent for controlling Yoden. Along with Madara Uchiha and my grandfather, he was regarded as the most formidable shinobi in history. He even earned the moniker, Yogen Shin. Is he truly that harmful? With a renewed fear of Dai, Tenten inquired. Completely, Sasuke remarked, drawing the attention of the others. He was able to summon lava directly out of the ground without using any hand signs at all, walk through lava without being harmed at all, cover his body in magma like a second skin, and create a dragon completely made of giant boiling magma with his own hands once they were covered in magma itself. It took me summoning so much energy from Tamashi to create an imperfect Susanoo to protect myself and Sakura from it. I swear I felt like I was going to pass out after defending us from that one attack. It nearly destroyed the Susanoo's shield, Sasuke remarked, causing Team Guy, including Guy himself, and Kakashi to look shocked. With a hint of concern, Jiraiya said, so he's improved. Have you previously met him in person? Kakashi inquired. Jiraiya nodded, yeah. We had a run-in with him long before Orochimaru went missing. He nearly killed the three of us. After setting a trap with stun gas pellets, Tsunade saved us all by making a rock slide that fell on the man. Sakura's hands clenched into fists as she considered only one thing. We thought that was the last time we ever saw him, but apparently he survived, no doubt with the help of Orochimaru somehow, Jiraiya said with worried and angry eyes. With great resolve, Sakura vowed to herself, I have to get stronger. Dai, I swear, I will defeat you. What became of the villagers, then? Guy inquired. Tenten, Sakura, and I rounded them all up and took them to a remote location on the outskirts of the village. Sasuke responded. The village chief was dead, but his three children, Akihiko, and Akiko, had survived. The new chief of the soon-to-be restored as the second, born and eldest daughter of the previous chief, Aiko. What about these shinobi wearing cloaks? Are you familiar with their identities? Tsunade inquired. Yes. Sasuke nodded. I believe those were all code names, but their names were Tetsuo, Hana, Kaya, Aika, and Hashi. Team Guy was shocked to learn that, despite their assistance with the mission, they had planted Konoha Hitai.8 at the destroyed auto bases in order to place the blame on us. Why? Guy inquired. Hashi, one of the cloaked shinobi, said that it was because it was the most logical thing to do to keep their group a secret since both our villages are already in a feud. Sakura responded. Sasuke remarked, still doesn't make it right. What other information do you have about these enigmatic characters? Tsunade inquired. Yes. Jiraiya and Tsunade narrowed their eyes slightly, which Sasuke noticed. Whoever they are, they wore the same cloaks that my brother and that fish-faced swordsman Kisame had on when they went after Naruto, Sasuke replied. Is there anything more to report? Tsunade inquired. Unsure of how to explain to her two crucial revelations from the mission that would undoubtedly cause her to lose her temper, Sasuke felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see it was Sakura. Sakura said, I'll tell her. Sasuke nodded. Shisho. Sakura addressed her mentor, looking at her fearfully but with great bravery and resolved to tell her what she deserved to know. We learned two important things regarding the Senju family. Sakura's words startled everyone, but Sasuke's eyes widened. What is it? Sakura took a deep breath before responding to Tsunade's eager question. The tragedy that occurred during Team 7's mission to the mountain volcano was caused by Dai. After hearing the news that the monster that nearly killed her and her old team was the reason her only grandson was gone, Sakura said, he planted explosive inside causing the volcano to erupt leading to, well, you know. Sakura looked to the ground, no longer having the strength to look her sensei in the eyes. Team Guy, Kakashi, and Jiraiya all had shocked expressions on their faces, and everyone's eyes were on Tsunade, wondering what she would do now, likely go on a rampage. What other details are there? Tsunade asked, attempting to contain her rage. Sakura shocked everyone once more when she said, it's about those mysterious shinobi that infiltrated the village and attacked Sasuke, Hinata and I. Apparently they're created from Senju DNA. Sasuke continued, which explains how they are able to use wood style. However, Sakura took another deep breath, gathering all the strength she could muster to tell them the truth, as Guy asked. Jiraiya and Tsunade were more interested in the answer than anyone else. Sakura revealed, Akane, she's still alive and being used by Orochimaru to create these things. Team Guy's faces were bewildered, wondering who Akane was. But Kakashi, Tsunade, and Jiraiya were stunned, and that had to mean something significant to Team Guy. Wait. So another Senju exists. Akane, who is this? Neji inquired. Team Guy's eyes widened in shock at this new information. Minato and Kushina's daughter and Naruto's twin sister. Kakashi responded as he began to feel intense hatred for Orochimaru and all of Wado. Naruto had a twin sister? Tenten exclaimed in disbelief. How low can you go, Orochimaru? Guy thought. With renewed rage at the pale snake sage, Neji thought, that monster will pay for bringing great harm to Konoha and Naruto's family. Naruto has a sister. She must be gorgeous, Lee thought. I promise you, Naruto, that I will find Akane, care for her, and treat her like a princess. Oh Lee, what will we do with you? You may go now. Tsunade gave the order, and the 5 genin nodded sympathetically as they all turned and left out the door. That goes for you too as well, Tsunade said to Guy and Kakashi, who nodded sympathetically as they shushed away. Tsunade got up from her seat, grabbed her desk, and, with tremendous strength, threw it out the window as she screamed with anger. Jiraiya just gave her a serious, worried eyes. Tsunade nearly fell to her knees in front of the hole, but Jiraiya was there to catch her. As he kept embracing her, Jiraiya said, "We'll get her back, I promise." Sakura, Sasuke, and Team Guy, the 5 genin, left the building, heard the desk being thrown out, and felt sorry for the Hokage. They vowed that Orochimaru would eventually get what was due to him because he had officially turned into a disease to the Senju clan. Guys, I know it hasn't been easy lately, but we have to stay strong for not just ourselves, but the Hokage, Konoha and Naruto, said Sakura. Sakura.san is correct. For our comrades, living or dead, we must raise our heads. Lee pumped his fist and exclaimed. Neji and Sasuke both said, agreed, simultaneously. That right now was just creepy, Tenten remarked, her face creeped out in a comedic anime manner. The 5 turned to see Shikamaru and the other members of teams 10 and 8. Hey, you guys came back. Ino said, see, I told you. Right, you were right, troublesome. What was that? Ino shouted at her indolent teammate. Hinata remarked, it's good to s.cu5 agai.ain. Hinata. Sakura ran up to her and gave her a big hug, which Hinata gladly returned as she yelled her friend's name. Chopped liver, what am I? Sakura hugged Hinata instead of her, which made Ino pout. Sakura hugged the platinum blonde next and said, it's good to see you too, Ino. When you're not insulting me, pig. Sakura grinned as the two sat side by side. The smirk was returned by Ino, who said, don't start, billboard brow. Kiba grinned arrogantly and said, damn, I was hoping for a catfight. However, Tamashi's scabbard, which still contained the katana, struck him in the head, making the blunt blow even more excruciating. That hurt, asshole, goddammit. The Uchiha was cursed at by Kiba. Kiba scowled at Shino as he thanked the Uchiha, saying, thank you Sasuke.san. As Kiba turned to glare at him, Sasuke said, my pleasure. Ignoring the Inuzuka, he turned and grinned at Hinata, saying, it's good to see you again, Hinata. Hinata smiled slightly and bowed, saying, same to you, Sasuke.kun. As Hinata moved away from her bowing position, Sasuke continued to smile and said, you don't have to bow to me. We're friends, so there is no need. The two grinned at one another, their cheeks flushed pink. Tenten smiled and whispered to Neji, they look so cute together. Neji's expression was drab as he said, well, at least not yet. Please don't ever say that to me again. So since you guys are back, how about we all go to the Korean barbecue? Ino made the suggestion. The greatest thought of the day, especially since I just finished my chips, Choji exclaimed joyfully. All right, let's go. Naruto, I'm so happy that you're still alive, and when you finally come back, we are finally going on that first date, Sakura thought as she began to see an image of Naruto's face in the sky. Ino yelled as they all began to leave. Sakura then looked up at the sky with a smile on her face as she began to remember Naruto and the fact that he was still alive. Is there a problem? Sakura.san? When Hinata saw that the pinkette had stopped moving, she inquired. Huh? The two had become very close friends over the years, and their bodies were just getting stronger. Sakura jogged right next to Hinata and began walking by her side as the two smiled. Oh sorry Hinata, I didn't realize that I stopped moving. With Obito and Naruto with his arms crossed and a serious expression on his face, Obito said, I said no, Naruto had recently undergone surgery and now had the Sharingan, but it wasn't just any Sharingan, it was the lost Sharingan of the notorious Madara Uchiha. Idea created by Oregon Ducks. Thanks for the idea, dude. $ing rule. The young blonde now had bandages wrapped around his new eyes to protect them from the light while they adjusted to the new change. But why? We are aware of her location and, no, I said. We attempted to break into Orochimaru's lair previously, but our agents were killed, Obito shouted, silencing Naruto. We are aware that entering is regarded as suicide, but we are unsure of how this is possible. Naruto said, then send me in, I'll take care of everything. Obito remarked, no Naruto. However, this is my family's business because she is my sister, Naruto disagreed. And since I am your superior, you do as I say as long as you are a member of Akatsuki. Obito retorted, making Naruto seethe with anger. Don't think that just because I am your mentor that I will not send your ass straight out of the organization for disobeying orders. Obito said. Naruto just stood silent, but he was looking down with a mad look on his face, making Obito sigh. I promise you that one day we will save Akane, but rushing into a situation such as this isn't going to help, trust me. Obito said. Naruto still sat in his bed with silence. I swore upon the Akatsuki, your parents, Rin and myself that I would look after you, and I am not going to go back on the promises I made. Obito said as he headed for the door. Get some rest. Obito said as he then left the room and closed the door, leaving Naruto by himself on his bed with Mamoru there on the bedside. Mamoru just looked up at his bed friend with concerned eyes before jumping onto the bed and walking towards the blonde's side. Mamoru then started rubbing himself up against Naruto, giving him comfort, making the blonde smile as he then started petting his partner. Mamoru said, I'm sorry about all this, Naruto. With a serious expression on his face, Naruto said, don't be, it's not over. What are you saying? Mamoru asked, staring at his friend bewildered. I finally know where my sister is, and I am not going to rest until I get her away from that monster, and no one, not even Obito and the entire Akatsuki, is going to stop me. Naruto said in shock to Mamoru. Are you even paying attention to yourself, Naruto? Mamoru exclaimed in disbelief. Well, don't I have ears? Naruto grinned as he spoke. Quit being such a jerk, Naruto, you dedicated your life to the Akatsuki, they raised you to be who you are. Mamoru yelled at a now frowning Naruto. To Mamoru's surprise, Naruto responded, exactly. Akatsuki stands for peace and equality for all living beings. A monster dressed like a pale man has my sister as a slave. As he tightened his fist, Naruto declared, I'm going to save her. Minato and Kushina knew that Obito was correct, but they couldn't help but support their son because Akane is their daughter and they share his feelings. Everyone in this world deserves to see the new dawn, and I can't think of anyone right now who deserves to see it more than my sister, Naruto said gravely, and Mamoru looked at him with nothing more to say. Mamoru said, okay, I'm in. Naruto rubbed Mamoru's head and said, no, Mamoru, I need you to stay here and keep them busy while I'm away and keep me updated through our mental link. I'll be counting on you, buddy. All right, but you're not leaving right now, are you? In the hopes that he would say no, Mamoru asked. With his eyes glowing red behind the bandages, Naruto said, of course not. This caused Mamoru to sigh with relief. I'm going to wait until these bandages come off and then, I'm going to save my sister, lone wolf style.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.